Chapter 12:16. There was an array hidden in the green stone. Dandin was careless and did not notice it. Whoosh! Whoosh! The flaming chains wrapped around Long Chen. Break! Long Chen shouted angrily and threw out both his fists. Boom! Boom! The two fists were powerful, and they pierced through the space. However, the flaming chains were very sturdy. Long Chen's fists only shook the flaming chains, but did not break them. Whoosh! 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 The green stone glowed, and more flaming chains appeared. Long Chen shouted angrily. His body glowed, and his arms became thicker. A layer of scales appeared on his arms, and he threw out a punch. Clang! One of the flaming chains was finally broken. Following that were even more chains. Two of the chains had already wrapped themselves around Long Chen's body. Whoosh! Whoosh! The chains wrapped around Long Chen's body, and there was green smoke coming out of his body. The flaming chains were extremely terrifying. They ignored Long Chen's protective true origin and acted directly on his body. A layer of scales appeared on Long Chen's skin. It was exactly the same as the scales on the immemorial dragonesque elephant. Whoosh! The chains acted on the scales, making them sizzle. It looked like it would not last long. Break! Long Chen's muscles bulged, and he grabbed the two chains. He struggled with all his might and finally broke the two chains. However, more chains appeared in the surroundings and enveloped Long Chen. The flaming chains are terrifying. They can break objects. I don't think Long Chen can last long. Xian Yinqing said solemnly. Lu Ming stared at the green stone and the runes without blinking. He was looking for a way to break it. Whoosh! Whoosh! As time passed, the green stone glowed brighter and more flaming chains appeared. Long Chen was having a harder time. There were already a few marks on his body, and he was almost cut in half by the flaming chains. Long Chen, take 2 steps to the right and 3 steps back. Suddenly, Lu Ming's voice was heard. Long Chen was stunned and did as he was told without hesitation. He took 2 steps to the right and 3 steps back. A few chains swept past Long Chen's body. 4 steps to the right, 2 steps forward, 5 steps to the left. Lu Ming's eyes were fixed on Qing Shi as he constantly gave out instructions. Now, Ming Lian's second body had already obtained the inheritance of the heavenly profound saint in the Saint Mansion secret realm. He had been cultivating diligently in the Saint Mansion secret realm, and his progress in the Tao of Inscription had been terrifying. Lu Ming's main body and second body were connected. As the second body's Tao of Inscription improved, Lu Ming's eyesight also improved greatly. Although he didn't have the spiritual fire and couldn't inscribe inscriptions, he could still see the flaws in the formation. Long Chen followed Lu Ming's instructions, sometimes right, sometimes left, sometimes behind, sometimes in front. He avoided all of the chains and slowly left the range of the blue stone. Dandin, I need your help. Lu Ming said to Dandin when he saw that Long Chen had reached the edge of the blue stone. Don't worry, watch me. Dandin flew out and waved his claws. Inscriptions appeared, forming a large formation, and rushed into the blue stone. Long Chen, you're out. Lu Ming shouted. Long Chen didn't hesitate and rushed out. The formation formed by Dandin shone and temporarily imprisoned the flame chains. However, in the next moment, it collapsed one by one. Long Chen took this short opportunity to rush out of the range of the blue stone and let out a long breath. Brother Lu, thank you for saving me. Long Chen cupped his fists at Lu Ming. You're welcome. It's nothing. Lu Ming smiled. I, Long Chen, clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Long Chen will remember you saving my life this time. Long Chen said solemnly. Lu Ming smiled and didn't say much. You have to be careful in this place. It looks dilapidated, but there are some places with broken formations. Even after countless years, they are still very powerful. Dandin reminded. Dandin, do you know how to get out? Lu Ming asked. I can only try my best. Follow me and don't wander around. Dandan flew out and circled around the area, carefully sizing it up. This way. After a while, Dandan pointed in a direction. This way? Aren't we heading towards the core of the ruins of God? Lu Ming was puzzled. Xian Yanqing and Long Qin also looked at Dandan in confusion. What are you looking at? If you don't believe me, then look for it yourself. Dandan curled his lips and scampered forward. Lu Ming was speechless and could only believe this guy. The three of them followed Dandan and moved forward carefully. Dandan observed carefully, and Lu Ming also observed carefully. Along the way, they avoided many broken formations and moved forward. There's an ancient mine of the ruins of God. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up as he looked not far away. There were a few ancient mines of the ruins of God that were exposed to the outside world. No one had ever entered the core of the ruins of God to excavate it. It was definitely a huge treasure trove. There are no formations there. We can take them. Lu Ming circulated his vital essence and took the few ancient mines of the ruins of God. You have to remember that some of the broken formations are very powerful. If you enter, even an Emperor Realm expert will die. Even if you see the ancient mines of the ruins of God, don't take them. Don't be blinded by greed. Dandan had a mature look on her face as she patiently and kindly warned everyone. But in the next moment, Dandan's eyes lit up as he stared to the right and shouted, "Level 9 spiritual medicine!" Then he ran over, grabbed a sparkling and resplendent spiritual medicine, and stuffed it into his mouth. Buzz! In that place, inscriptions flickered, forming terrifying beams of light that shot towards Dandan. Dandan jumped up and down in a panic. In the end, it relied on its strong defensive power and profound inscription path to escape. Lu Ming and the others were speechless. This fellow had just warned them, but when he saw the spiritual medicine, he immediately rushed over. However, they were also secretly shocked. The spiritual medicine that Dandan had obtained just now was indeed extremely shocking. It was a level 9 spiritual medicine. This area was truly a treasure trove. The group moved forward carefully. Along the way, they had indeed encountered many treasures, mainly the ancient mines of the ruins of God and spiritual medicines. Most of the spiritual medicines went into Dandan's mouth, while the ancient mines of the ruins of God were divided equally between Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Long Qin. Of course, in some dangerous places, even if they saw spiritual medicines and ancient mines of the ruins of God, they did not take them and directly gave up. This is a 9-leaf Ganoderma. Not long after, they saw a spiritual medicine with 9 leaves. It was crystal clear and had a medicinal fragrance. It was actually a 9-leaf Ganoderma, one of the main ingredients for refining the Nirvana pill. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He did not expect to encounter a 9-leaf Ganoderma here. However, the place where the 9-leaf Ganoderma grew had an incomplete formation. In the end, Lu Ming and Dandan worked together and spent a lot of effort to successfully pluck the 9-leaf Ganoderma. For this, Dandan vomited a few mouthfuls of blood and cried out that he had suffered a loss. Chapter 12:17. Whoosh, whoosh! The cold wind whistled and the blood mist rolled. They did not know how long they had been walking, but they still could not get out. The blood mist around them was getting thicker and thicker. Dandan, can we get out or not? Lu Ming asked. Cough, cough. Don't be impatient, trust me. Dandan coughed a few times and said. Hearing Dandan's dry coughing, Lu Ming felt even more uncertain. This guy's dry coughing was definitely not a good thing. Sure enough, after walking for a while, there were no signs of getting out at all. Instead, there were more and more broken formations around them, and Lu Ming judged that the formations were getting stronger and stronger. They walked even more carefully. There's a palace in front. Suddenly, Xian Yanqing exclaimed. Lu Ming and Long Qin looked over, their eyes revealing shock. A palace appeared in front of them. It was a complete black palace that was incomparably huge. It was thousands of meters tall, magnificent and full of the traces of time. Ever since they entered the ruins of God, they had not found a complete building, let alone a complete palace. But in front of them there was a complete palace. A complete palace. There must be treasures inside. Dandan's eyes lit up. If there are treasures, it means more danger. Lu Ming said. In the end, everyone discussed and decided to explore. Since they were already here, it would be a pity if they did not explore. The 3 people and 1 tortoise carefully approached the huge palace. They could see that there was a huge door in the middle of the palace. The door was open, but it was dark inside, and they could not see the situation clearly. Bang! 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 Suddenly, a series of rumbling sounds came from the palace, as if a huge monster was walking. It seems like something is coming. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes solemn. Let's retreat first. Dandan swallowed his saliva, feeling a little scared. They retreated for a while before finding a huge rock to hide behind. Dandan inscribed an array formation to restrain their auras. After concealing their auras, they began to observe the battle quietly. Bang! 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 The sounds became louder and louder, one after another, very rhythmic, as if a huge monster was walking. It's out. That's a dragon. Xian Yinqing exclaimed softly. His voice was filled with shock. A decapitated dragon, and Long Qin spoke. This peerless genius, who had always been very calm and expressionless, suddenly changed his expression. His voice was very shocked and very hoarse. Lu Ming's pupils suddenly contracted. At the entrance of the palace, a huge monster finally revealed its true body. It was a dragon with 5 claws under its belly. It was a true dragon, a 5-clawed true dragon. However, the most shocking thing was that this true dragon did not have a head. Its head seemed to have been chopped off. Its entire body was covered in black scales and emitted a terrifying aura. The most shocking thing was that there was a knight sitting on the back of the dragon. A knight in black armor was holding a dragon spear that was several meters long. Like the true dragon, this black-armored knight did not have a head. A headless knight riding a headless true dragon walked out of the palace, giving off a terrifying aura. Lu Ming and the others felt their scalps go numb. Roar! The headless true dragon actually let out an earth-shaking dragon roar, causing Lu Ming and the others' eardrums to hurt. Then, the headless knight riding the headless true dragon actually walked in their direction. As the true dragon stepped, the earth rumbled. Oh no, they've discovered us. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. Run, run quickly! Dandan exclaimed and turned to run. However, Buzz, the headless true dragon knight, emitted a terrifying fluctuation. This fluctuation was stronger than any emperor that Lu Ming had encountered. The space around them seemed to have solidified. Their bodies were suppressed by the space and could not move at all. It was as if they were fixed in place. Lu Ming exerted all his strength, but it was still useless. He could not even activate his bloodline. Too strong. This headless true dragon knight was too strong. Its combat strength was terrifying. Dandan, you're in big trouble this time. Lu Ming shouted. I don't know either. Dandan maintained its running posture and was fixed in the air. Its mouth was crooked. Bang! Bang! The headless true dragon knight stepped closer and closer to them. Its powerful aura caused the boulders in front of them to shatter. They were directly exposed to the headless knight. Trespassers die. A cold and emotionless voice came from the headless knight. Shao Qing. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yinqing. This time they were most likely doomed. Lu Ming, as long as I'm with you, so what if I die? Xian Yinqing transmitted his voice to Lu Ming, his eyes full of affection. No way, I didn't die in that earth-shattering battle back then, but I'm going to die here? No way, no. Dandan shouted, his voice full of unwillingness. Bang! The headless knight stood in front of them and pointed the dragon's spear in his hand. A cold, murderous intent enveloped them. Kill! Nobody knew where the headless knight's cold voice came from, but at this moment Lu Ming's body glowed. A purple gold token floated out from Lu Ming's body. Hunyuan token! This was the Hunyuan token that Lu Ming had obtained in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming didn't know how to use it, but now it floated out on its own. At the same time, on the other side, a purple gold token appeared on Long Chen's body. It was also a Hunyuan token. Long Chen had also obtained a Hunyuan token when he participated in the Battle of Providence. 2 Hunyuan tokens flew out, emitting a dazzling light. The headless true dragon knight stopped moving instantly, as if it was looking at the 2 Hunyuan tokens. Hunyuan tokens, you are disciples of the Hunyuan sect. It's been countless years. I didn't expect to see disciples of the Hunyuan sect again. Since you are disciples of the Hunyuan sect, you are one of us. Come in. A cold and dry voice came from the headless true dragon knight. The pressure on Lu Ming and the others also disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming and the others immediately regained their freedom. Shao Qing. Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's small hand and looked at the headless true dragon knight cautiously. How many years has it been? I finally see disciples of the Hunyuan sect again. How is the Hunyuan sect now? Is it still resisting or has it been destroyed? A leisurely voice came from the headless true dragon knight. Then the headless true dragon knight turned and left. Step by step, it walked into the dark palace and disappeared without a trace. Come in. What opportunities you can get will depend on your luck. The headless true dragon knight's voice came from the palace. Then it was completely silent. This, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Long Chen were a little stunned and confused. Chapter 1218. Strange, too strange. Obviously, the headless true dragon knight recognized the primordial chaos token. Also, the primordial chaos sect? What was that? A sect? Could it be the controller behind the War of Providence? At this moment, Lu Ming thought of many things, but he also had more questions. However, one thing was certain. The headless true dragon knight seemed to be on the same side as the primordial chaos sect. At least, they were not enemies, which was why they were let go. This is a supreme powerhouse. After death, his battle soul did not dissipate and turned into a headless true dragon knight to protect this territory. Also, the primordial chaos sect? Dandan said slowly, as if trying to recall something, frowning. Suddenly, Dandan raised his eyebrows and his eyes lit up. Dandan, what did you remember? Lu Ming asked. The primordial chaos sect, the #1 sect in the world, the most powerful force. Dandan said, the #1 sect in the world? You mean the primordial realm? Lu Ming asked, the world is very big, and it's not just the primordial realm. Dandan said, you mean the heavenly realm? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He was very shocked. Of course, the conversation between the two was in the form of voice transmission. No one else could hear it. Xian Yanqing did not mind if he heard it. He was not familiar with Long Chen, and there were some things that he did not want Long Chen to know. Yes, the primordial chaos sect is the #1 sect in the world. Unfortunately, it was destroyed back then. Moreover, this place is most likely related to the primordial chaos sect. Therefore, you have the primordial chaos token, so the headless true dragon knight will not kill you. Dandan said, Dandan, what happened to the heavenly realm? Lu Ming stared at Dandan and asked. Lu Ming was really curious. He found that many things in the primordial realm were related to the heavenly realm. Legend had it that in ancient times corpses fell from the sky and formed the 100-god slope in the Tianqian domain. There was also the ancient desolate city, which was also an object of the heavenly realm. In the end, it broke through the void and arrived on a small island in the heavenly realm. There was also the gate of heaven, which was connected to the heavenly realm. Dandan came out of the gate of heaven. Now, the Battle of Providence was also suspected to be controlled by the primordial chaos sect of the heaven realm and the current ruins of God. The primordial realm seemed to be inextricably linked to the heaven realm. Dandan would often mutter about the battle back. Then, what was that battle referring to? Since the Hunyuan sect was the #1 sect in the world, why was it destroyed? Was it because of the three-eyed divine race? I can't tell you. Firstly, my memory is fuzzy and I can't remember it clearly. Secondly, your cultivation is too weak. Telling you won't do you any good. There are some things that you will naturally know when your cultivation reaches a certain level, Dandan said in a deep voice. It was rare for him to be so serious. Lu Ming pursed his lips, but since Dandan didn't say anything, he didn't bother to ask. Indeed, that kind of thing was too far away from him. His current goal was to improve his cultivation and deal with Di. Lu Ming, are we going in? Xian Yinqing asked as he looked at the palace in front of him. Let's go in. Since the headless true dragon rider isn't hostile to us, let's go in and explore, Lu Ming said. Long Qin nodded without hesitation. Indeed, there might be some opportunities inside. If there are treasures, I'll be rich. Dandan's eyes lit up again. Immediately, the three of them and the tortoise walked into the palace gate. After walking through the gate, their vision widened and they could vaguely see the main hall. The main hall was very spacious. In the middle, there was a huge aisle. On both sides of the aisle, there were stone rooms. The few of them checked several stone rooms in a row, but found nothing. Suddenly, Long Chen's expression changed, as if he had sensed something. He strode forward and came to a sealed stone room. When he arrived, Long Chen's body glowed. The Archean dragonesque elephant bloodline automatically appeared above his head. Roar! The Archean dragonesque elephant bloodline howled and slammed into the stone door of the stone room. Crack! The stone door opened and a domineering aura emanated from inside. This is... Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were shocked to see a statue in the stone room. The statue was obviously a huge elephant. The elephant was covered in scales, and its aura was domineering. It was obviously an Archean dragonesque elephant. There was actually an Archean dragonesque elephant statue here. It was lifelike and looked exactly the same as Long Chen's bloodline. However, its aura was stronger, more shocking and more domineering. Long Chen's eyes lit up. He strode in and sat under the Archean dragonesque elephant statue. The Archean dragonesque elephant bloodline above his head resonated with the statue. The statue flashed with light. This kid is pretty lucky to have obtained a great opportunity, Dandan said. Lu Ming nodded. Long Qin had indeed obtained a great opportunity. The Archean dragonesque elephant statue was definitely left behind by a supreme expert. It contained the charm of the Archean dragonesque elephant. Long Chen will probably be cultivating here for a short period of time. Let's go, Lu Ming said. Then he left with Xian Yinqing and Dandan. They walked forward and looked at every secret room on both sides of the passage. Unfortunately, they found nothing. Soon they passed through the passage. Behind them was a ruin. Suddenly, Xian Yinqing's glabella flickered. There seems to be something underground, Xian Yinqing said. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He began to dig under the ruins. Soon, he dug dozens of meters deep. Below, a huge ancient mine of the ruins of God appeared. Yes, the ancient mine of the ruins of God was the size of a water tank. It was dozens of times bigger than the other ancient mines of God. It's so heavy. Lu Ming mentioned it, but he didn't manage to lift it. Get up. Lu Ming unleashed 8 streams of dragon force to lift the ancient mine of the ruins of God and fly it out of the deep pit. Xian Yinqing's true yuan boiled and demonic qi shone on his body. Above his head, the heavenly demon bloodline appeared. I have a strong reaction to this ancient mine of the ruins of God. It seems that there is a devil inside. Xian Yinqing's eyes revealed curiosity and nervousness. Rich, rich, this girl is rich. There is indeed something extraordinary sealed in this ancient mine of the ruins of God. Dandin circled around the ancient mine of the ruins of God, his eyes shining as he muttered nonstop, "Break it and take a look." Lu Ming said, "Wait a minute, let me set up a formation, just in case." Dandin called out to Lu Ming, and then set up a dense array around the ancient mine of the ruins of God. "That's enough," Dandin said. Lu Ming nodded. His true yuan condensed into a blade and began to cut the ancient mine of the ruins of God. The yellow ore was cut off layer by layer. Slowly, the ancient mine of the ruins of God became smaller and smaller. In the end, it was only the size of a fist. It's so small, what could be inside? Lu Ming was curious. His true yuan shook. Crack! The ancient mine of the ruins of God cracked open. Immediately, a powerful demonic qi spread out from the crack. This demonic qi was extremely terrifying. Although it didn't feel strong, that kind of aura was high and mighty, like an emperor looking down on all living things. Bang! Chapter 1219. The black bead was the size of a longan, but it contained a shocking demonic aura and a vast demonic aura. Lu Ming felt as if he was facing a supreme being of the demonic path. The feeling was many times stronger than when he faced Xiaowan. This is a sacred heart? No, it doesn't seem like it. Lu Ming was shocked. At first, he felt that it was a sacred heart left behind by a sage. Lu Ming had seen a sacred heart left behind by a heavenly profound sage before. But after taking a closer look, it didn't seem like it. Buzz! Whoosh! The black bead let out a buzzing sound and then shot into the sky as if it had a mind of its own. I knew it, Dandin said. Inscriptions appeared around them, and a large array was formed, forming countless dense ribbons that blocked the black bead like an inescapable net. The black bead didn't rush out and immediately changed its direction, but it was still blocked by the array. The black bead rushed left and right with a monstrous demonic aura, but unfortunately it didn't rush out. Dandin was already prepared and set up the array just in case. Naturally, it wasn't that simple. At this time, the demonic aura on Xian Yanqing's body became denser. Her bloodline was glowing as if it was resonating with the black bead. Buzz! In the end, the black bead seemed to have no choice but to turn around and fly directly toward Xian Yanqing. Oh no! Lu Ming's face changed, and he wanted to stop it. Lu Ming, you're confused because you're too concerned. This is a great opportunity for this girl, Dandin shouted. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he stopped. He also knew that he was confused because he was too concerned. Whoosh! The black bead flew into Xia Nianqing's glabella and disappeared. Lu Ming, I want to cultivate here for a while, Xian Yanqing said. Okay. Lu Ming nodded. Then, Xian Yanqing sat down cross-legged. A layer of demonic light shrouded Xian Yanqing like a cocoon formed by demonic aura. Dandin, could that be the sacred heart left behind by the saints? Lu Ming asked curiously. Not the sacred heart. Dandin shook his head. His small eyes glowed as he said, That's a core left behind by an existence more powerful than a saint. It's 100 times more precious than a saint's heart. That's why I said that this chick had obtained a great opportunity. Fortunately, the owner of this thing had died in battle a long time ago. The killing intent and murderous intent on it had long dissipated, and there wasn't much energy left. Otherwise, if we were all dead, this chick wouldn't have been able to obtain the inheritance. Stronger than a sage? Lu Ming was secretly shocked. At the moment, a ruler was an insurmountable mountain for him, and a saint was much more powerful than a ruler. Moreover, there were existences stronger than a saint. Lu Ming, let's continue forward. No one else can come in here. Your little lover will be fine here. I feel that there is a lucky chance waiting for us ahead. Dandin's eyes lit up as he looked ahead. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Lu Ming nodded. Then, the man and the tortoise continued forward. There were still ruins in front of them, but they could still see the outline. It should also be a palace, but it had been smashed and fallen here. It had long been ruined. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a behemoth lying in front of them. It was the headless true dragon knight. The black headless true dragon was lying on the ground, and the headless knight was sitting quietly on the true dragon, holding a dragon spear, motionless. Next to the headless true dragon knight, there was an area where various weapons were stuck upside down. However, they seemed to have been corroded and were in tatters. He could even see various kinds of armor, which were also rotten like those weapons. Taking a closer look, there were skeletons under those weapons and armor. Could it be that these were the burial places of the powerhouses who died in battle? Was the headless true dragon knight guarding this place? Lu Ming secretly guessed. That's 10,000 spirit crystals? I'm rich. Dandin's eyes suddenly lit up. She sprinted forward and rushed into the area filled with bones. Then she dug out a multicolored crystal the size of a human head from the center of the area. It hugged the crystal and began to chew on it. Crunch, 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 it ate with relish. During the process, the headless true dragon knight did not move and did not stop it. Lu Ming smiled and strode forward. When he walked into the place of skeletons, his face changed drastically. Kill, kill, kill. Countless roars that were filled with murderous intent suddenly exploded in Lu Ming's mind. Those were extremely powerful killing intent, the killing intent of those powerhouses who were unwilling to die. They were too powerful. If it were anyone else, they would have been drowned by the endless killing intent in an instant and become an idiot. However, Lu Ming was different. In his third bloodline, the murderous intent and murderous intent were many times stronger than the murderous intent here. Lu Ming was often under the influence of such murderous intent, and he had long learned how to resist it and maintain a clear mind amidst the endless murderous intent. What a strong killing intent, but it's useless against me. But Dandin is too unreliable. He didn't even warn me. If it were someone else, it would be dangerous. Lu Ming thought. Dandin was still gnawing on the crystal, squinting and enjoying it very much. Kill, kill, kill. Those killing intents were full of strong unwillingness and unyielding fighting intent, as if they were going to kill all enemies in the world. Huh, what's this? Lu Ming's expression changed, and he closed his eyes. In the next moment, the surrounding environment seemed to change. Lu Ming came to a vast land, where countless light pillars shot up into the sky. Those light pillars were all auras, the auras of various essences of heaven and earth. No, in essence, they were countless times stronger than the essences of heaven and earth. Are they left by those powerhouses? Are they related to the essences? Or are they more powerful than the essences? Lu Ming's heart jumped, and then he was overjoyed, because Lu Ming felt that in those light pillars there were auras similar to the essences of fire and thunder. Lu Ming could find all 5 essences that he had comprehended. If I can comprehend them here, the essences of heaven and earth will definitely improve rapidly. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. For him, this was a great opportunity. Immediately, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and started to comprehend quietly. Dandin quickly finished eating the 10,000 spirit crystal, and then he lay there motionlessly, glowing all over. Fire essence! The first thing Lu Ming comprehended was the concept of fire. Now his fire essence and thunder essence had reached the peak of greater success of level 4, and he was only one step away from level 4 perfection. At this time, Lu Ming's fire essence was rapidly improving again. In this way, time passed day by day. After 7 days, Lu Ming made a breakthrough in his fire essence, making it the first to reach level 4 perfection. Level 4 perfection of concept was already the highest level. The next step would be domain. Boom! A layer of flame jumped on Lu Ming's body, and then it burned through the space. Level 4 perfection, so powerful. Chapter 1220. Perfected level 4 meant that one's comprehension of the concept had reached the peak. Once one's control of the heaven and earth concept reached the perfected realm, the power of the concept would increase greatly. In 7 days, I was able to raise my fire concept from greater success level 4 to perfected level 4. This place is a great opportunity for me. Lu Ming thought to himself. Although there was only one step between greater success level 4 and perfected level 4, the difference was like heaven and earth. Many geniuses would need at least half a year or even a few years to break through. Some people might even spend their entire lives without being able to break through. With Lu Ming's cultivation speed, he would need at least half a year to break through if there were no opportunities. But now he had broken through in 7 days. Next, thunder concept. Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he began to comprehend thunder concept. Similarly, in 7 days, Lu Ming's thunder concept had broken through and reached perfected level 4. Whoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand, and the sky was filled with lightning. Bolts of lightning surrounded Lu Ming's body. Suddenly, Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Just as his thunder concept had broken through to perfected level 4, the thunder cauldron in his sea of consciousness that had been silent for a few years suddenly moved and vibrated slightly. At this moment, Lu Ming felt that he had made a connection with the thunder cauldron. Lu Ming had obtained this thunder cauldron from the 100-god slope. When he first saw it, the thunder cauldron was undergoing a heavenly tribulation, so Lu Ming had put away. Lu Ming had used it a few times. Although it would absorb Lu Ming's life essence, it had helped Lu Ming overcome difficulties several times. Unfortunately, after being hit by DE in the Battle of 9 Dragons, it had flown back to Lu Ming's sea of consciousness and remained silent. No matter how Lu Ming tried to sense or call it, he could not get a connection. Now, when Lu Ming's thunder concept had broken through to perfected level 4, he had made a connection with the thunder cauldron again. Immediately, Lu Ming activated thunder concept and carefully sensed with the thunder cauldron. The lightning cauldron vibrated even more intensely. In the end, it flew out from between Lu Ming's eyebrows and floated above Lu Ming's head. It emitted a supreme lightning might from above. This pressure is so strong. Lu Ming sensed the lightning cauldron and his eyes revealed shock. The pressure emitted by the thunder cauldron was even stronger than that of a ruler. Move! Lu Ming tried to control the lightning cauldron. To his surprise, he was able to control it. The lightning cauldron flew up and down according to Lu Ming's will. It was many times stronger than before. In the past, he would only be able to activate the lightning cauldron when he was fighting for his life. The lightning would absorb his true essence and his life essence. Only then would he be able to activate the lightning cauldron. How could he control it as he wished now? However, I still feel that this lightning cauldron is unfathomable. I don't know how much power I can unleash from it. However, even if I can unleash a little bit of its power, it will still be of great help to me. Let's find a chance to test it out. Lu Ming smiled and put the thunder cauldron back into his sea of consciousness. Then, Lu Ming continued to comprehend other concepts. Time passed day by day. Lu Ming's heaven and earth concept also improved very quickly. Chirp, chirp. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he suddenly heard a sound not far away from him. Lu Ming was shocked and hurriedly opened his eyes. There were actually other living beings here. If they wanted to harm them, the consequences would be unimaginable. When he opened his eyes, he saw a ball of white hair squirming not far away. No, upon closer inspection, it was actually a living being that looked very similar to a squirrel. Its entire body was chubby and round, and it was very fleshy. Moreover, its entire body was covered with white hair. The white hair was crystal clear without any impurities. Coupled with its chubby body, it was very cute. It was not big. It was only the size of 2 fists. At this moment, it was blinking its big black eyes and looking at Lu Ming curiously. It was making chirping sounds from its mouth. There's actually such a living being here. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Wasn't this place filled with mortal enemies and no living beings? Lu Ming and the others had not encountered any living beings along the way except for the headless true dragon rider. Strictly speaking, the headless true dragon rider was not a living being. Could it be a spirit mouse? Strange, why would it appear here? Moreover, isn't it afraid of the endless killing intent here? Chirp, chirp. The white spirit mouse looked at Lu Ming curiously while chirping. It wriggled its chubby body and wandered around Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked carefully and found that the white spirit mouse looked very ordinary. Lu Ming stood up and walked towards the white spirit mouse. The white spirit mouse was shocked and ran away quickly. After running for a while, it stopped and turned around to look at Lu Ming curiously. "Little guy, what's your name?" Lu Ming asked. When a demonic beast reached the king realm, it would be able to speak. Chirp, chirp. However, the white spirit mouse only chirped and did not speak. "You haven't reached the king realm? But if you haven't reached the king realm, how can you resist the endless killing intent here?" Lu Ming's curiosity was aroused, and he chased after the white spirit mouse. The white spirit mouse turned around and ran at an incredible speed. In a flash, it disappeared without a trace. This is the space essence. Lu Ming stood rooted to the ground, dumbstruck. A white spirit mouse could actually use the space essence. Moreover, it seemed to be more mysterious than the space essence that Lu Ming had seen Yang Patian and Dishan use. What kind of spirit mouse was this? What kind of demonic beast was it? Lu Ming had never heard of it. Forget it. In the end, Lu Ming shook his head and continued to sit cross-legged to comprehend the space essence. But not long after, the chirping sound was heard again. Lu Ming opened his eyes and saw the white spirit mouse again. It was lying not far away and looking at Lu Ming. "This guy," Lu Ming muttered. Suddenly, he moved and pounced on the white spirit rat. Chirp, chirp. The white spirit mouse was startled and turned around to run. In a flash of white light, it was far away. Lu Ming did not even see how it left. Its use of space is too strong, isn't it? Lu Ming was really stunned. After a while, Lu Ming continued to sit cross-legged. But this time, Lu Ming just closed his eyes and did not cultivate. Instead, he spread out his soul consciousness and paid attention to the situation around him. As expected, not long after, with a flash of white light, the white spirit mouse appeared not far away from Lu Ming and looked at Lu Ming curiously. "Let's see where you can run to this time." The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a faint smile. The vital essence in his body suddenly erupted, forming a vital essence light shield that enveloped a radius of 1,000 meters. Even the space was sealed by Lu Ming. At the same time, Lu Ming suddenly moved and pounced on the white spirit mouse like a ray of light. Chirp, chirp. The white spirit mouse made a sound, but there was no trace of panic in its big eyes. It spat out a bubble from its mouth. Yes, it was a bubble. The bubble expanded rapidly and enveloped Lu Ming. Chapter 12:21. As for the white spirit mouse, it ran away without a trace. When the white spirit mouse went far away, the bubble on his body burst with a poof. This is the time concept. This time, Lu Ming's heart was really in a perilous situation. His eyes were full of disbelief. The reason why the bubble slowed down Lu Ming's speed was not because of other reasons. That was because the flow of time in the bubble slowed down. Therefore, Lu Ming's speed slowed down. That was clearly the time concept. Among thousands of concepts, time and space were king. The time concept and space concept were the kings of thousands of concepts. But in fact, the time concept was stronger, more mysterious and rarer than space concept. That was the legendary concept. Almost no one could comprehend it. But now, a white spirit mouse actually mastered the time concept. The most shocking thing was that this white spirit mouse not only mastered the time concept, but also the space concept. To master time and space at the same time, this was unheard of. It was too shocking and too terrifying. Lu Ming was stunned there. It took him a long time to recover. This spirit mouse's origin is absolutely amazing, but it seems to have no malice towards me. It's just curious and as timid as a mouse. No, it's just a mouse, Lu Ming thought in his heart. After a while, Lu Ming continued to sit cross-legged. Sure enough, not long after, the white spirit mouse came again, not far from Lu Ming. It blinked its big eyes and looked at Lu Ming curiously. This time, Lu Ming ignored it. He closed his eyes and pretended to cultivate. The white spirit mouse wandered around Lu Ming and looked at him. After half an hour, it ran away. Lu Ming smiled slightly and continued to comprehend the world concept. The next day, the white spirit mouse came again and still looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming ignored it and continued to cultivate. This time, the white spirit mouse seemed to be a little bolder and got closer to Lu Ming. After half an hour, it left again. But the next day, the white spirit mouse came again. Lu Ming couldn't be bothered and focused on cultivating. As for the white spirit mouse, it would come every day to carefully size up Lu Ming. Furthermore, it became bolder and bolder, slowly approaching Lu Ming. 7 days later, it simply climbed onto Lu Ming's shoulder. In this way, after a few more days, he decided not to leave. He curled up at Lu Ming's feet. His chubby body curled up, and he actually fell asleep. There was even a bubble on his nose. As the white spirit mouse breathed, the bubble would grow bigger and smaller. It was very cute. Lu Ming opened his eyes and couldn't help but reach out to touch it. The white spirit mouse suddenly woke up and subconsciously wanted to escape. However, it immediately realized that Lu Ming was just gently stroking it. Then it looked comfortable and continued to lie down. Chirp, chirp. After a while, the white spirit mouse actually fell asleep again, and it was even making chirping sounds. Lu Ming smiled faintly. What a cute little guy. In the following days, Lu Ming cultivated every day. The white spirit mouse seemed to be dependent on him and stayed by Lu Ming's side all day long. This is a space-time spirit mouse. Suddenly, a shocked voice sounded. Lu Ming opened his eyes and saw Dandan looking at the white spirit mouse in shock. Space-time spirit mouse? Dandan, you know it? Lu Ming asked. Dandan carefully sized up the white spirit mouse. There was a complicated look in his eyes. It seemed to be nostalgic and sad at the same time. Of course I know it. Space-time spirit mouse is one of the top 10 battle beasts. How can I not know it? Dandan said leisurely. One of the top 10 battle beasts. Lu Ming was shocked. Space-time spirit mouse can control space-time. Don't mention how terrifying it is. A space-time spirit mouse in its heyday is a headache, even for me in my heyday. Kid, you're really lucky. It seems that this space-time spirit mouse is dependent on you. Dandan said. His tone was full of envy. Isn't it said that the top 10 battle beasts are unique in the world? Could it be that this one is the one from ancient times? Lu Ming asked curiously. He had already determined that this was the real space-time spirit mouse. Lu Ming had seen it use space-time essence with his own eyes. It shouldn't be. The space-time spirit mouse from back then had already died in battle. If I'm not mistaken, this one should be the descendant of the space-time spirit mouse from back then. I don't know what kind of method it used to seal it until now, but this space-time spirit mouse shouldn't have been born for too long. I know. This is the space-time spirit palace. The space-time spirit palace was an important place in the Hunyuan sect. It was the residence of the space-time spirit mouse. The Archean dragonesque elephant and the space-time spirit mouse were good friends, so there was a statue of the Archean dragonesque elephant. Unfortunately, this place has been destroyed. Dandan kept muttering and revealed many secrets. Dandan, you seem to have recovered a lot. Lu Ming said, Haha, of course. I've refined the 1,000 spirit crystal. The 1,000 spirit crystal is the condensation of the essence of countless experts. Now that my cultivation has improved greatly, I can protect you in the future. Dandan said proudly, Oh, can you deal with the Emperor? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Ahem, I haven't fully digested the 1,000 spirit crystal. I can't deal with the Emperor for the time being. Dandan said awkwardly, You can't deal with the Emperor. What's there to be proud of? Lu Ming despised. Kiddo. Dandan glared at Lu Ming. If you can't deal with the Emperor, what about the Supreme Being? Lu Ming asked. Ahem, I should be able to barely deal with the Supreme Being, right? Dandan said with some lack of confidence. Lu Ming curled his lips. This guy was most likely unreliable and didn't have any confidence in his words. Kid, what's with your expression? I haven't digested the 1,000 spirit crystal yet. After I've digested it, I can kill a Supreme Being with a slap. Dandan shouted, Is that so? Lu Ming didn't seem to believe him, which made Dandan very depressed. He stayed at the side alone and continued to refine the 1,000 spirit crystal. Shao Qing and Long Qin haven't finished cultivating yet. I'll continue to comprehend the concept. Lu Ming pondered and then continued to comprehend the concept of heaven and earth. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, there were only 3 days left before they set off for the ancient city of gods. At this time, Lu Ming ended his cultivation. They had to think of a way to get out. A few days ago, Xian Yanqing and Long Qin had finished their cultivation and came here. At first, Long Qin and Xian Yanqing also wanted to step into the land of bones, but they retreated in shock. It was difficult for them to resist the killing intent, so they could only give up. Whoosh! Lu Ming stood up and took a step out of the land of bones. During this period of time, each of them had gained a lot. Long Qin seemed to have comprehended a terrifying battle skill while cultivating under the primordial, dragonesque elephant. Moreover, his cultivation had broken through from the peak of the 5th level to the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Moreover, he had reached the peak of the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Xian Yanqing's cultivation had improved the most. She was originally at the peak of the 4th level of the spirit god realm, but now she had stepped into the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Yes, the 6th level of the spirit god realm, and she had already reached the middle stage of the 6th level. Chapter 1222. Of course, Lu Ming's gains were also very shocking. Among his concepts of heaven and earth, the fire concept, thunder concept, and wind concept had all broken through to the peak of the 4th level. In addition, the water concept was at the peak of the 4th level, and the earth concept, which was the hardest to cultivate, was also at the peak of the 4th level. It could be said that his 5 concepts could be described as advancing by leaps and bounds. If he cultivated normally, it would take at least a few years, but now he only needed a little more than a month. If it wasn't for the lack of time, Lu Ming really wanted to raise all 5 concepts to the peak of the 4th level here. Now, although Lu Ming's cultivation was still at the 5th level of the spirit god realm, his various concepts had far surpassed his cultivation. Lu Ming only needed to spend some time to devour and refine origin stones, and his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. For Lu Ming, the advancement of concepts was the most important. As long as he had origin stones, his cultivation could increase crazily. Of course, Lu Ming's greatest fortuitous encounter was obtaining the space-time spirit mouse. Now the space-time spirit mouse pestered Lu Ming all day and hung on Lu Ming's body. What a cute spirit mouse! Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up when she saw the space-time spirit mouse. She really wanted to hug it. However, the space-time spirit mouse seemed to be shy with strangers. It hung on Lu Ming's body and didn't let Xian Yanqing hug it. This made Xian Yanqing's little mouth pout. Haha, this little guy. Lu Ming laughed loudly, making Xian Yinqing's little mouth pout even higher. Dandan, can you find a way out? Lu Ming asked Dandan. Cough, cough, I can try. Dandan coughed again and flew onto Lu Ming's shoulder. This guy is coughing again. Lu Ming had a bad feeling in his heart. When this guy coughed, it meant that he wasn't confident. Bang! At this moment, the space-time spirit mouse kicked Dandan in the face, sending Dandan flying off Lu Ming's shoulder. Then it curled up its body and nestled on Lu Ming's shoulder, looking at Dandan with its big round eyes. It seemed to be saying that this territory was his. Nestle, little guy, you dare to kick this seat? Audacious, impudent. Dandan's anger soared to the sky. Chirp, chirp. The space-time spirit mouse looked at Dandan innocently and chirped. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing laughed heartily. Even the usually reserved Long Chen revealed a smile. Suddenly, Lu Ming thought of something, and his eyes lit up as he rubbed the space-time spirit mouse and said, Little fellow, are you willing to leave with me? Chirp, chirp. A small bubble emerged from the space-time spirit mouse's nose, and it nodded its head repeatedly. Then do you know the way out? Can you take us out? Lu Ming continued to ask. Chirp, chirp. The space-time spirit mouse nodded again. Lu Ming was overjoyed and said, All right, then bring us out. Chirp, chirp. The space-time spirit mouse extended its small claws and pointed in a direction. Lu Ming was overjoyed, and the few of them followed the direction pointed by the space-time spirit mouse. The headless true dragon knight did not move at all. Very quickly, the few of them left the direction of the palace. On the way, the space-time spirit mouse would often give them pointers. Everyone followed the direction of the space-time spirit mouse and walked forward. Just like that, they walked for half a day. Half a day later, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. They discovered that they had already left the core region and arrived at the inner region of the ruins of God. They had really walked out of the core region of the ruins of God. Little guy, you're so powerful. Lu Ming patted the space-time spirit mouse. Chirp, chirp. The space-time spirit mouse squinted its eyes and curled up its chubby body. It had a comfortable look on its face as the bubble on its nose fluctuated between big and small. So cute! Xian Yanqing's eyes were already filled with light as he stared at the space-time spirit mouse. He couldn't wait to rush up and hug it. Lu Ming, this little spirit mouse is much more reliable than your little tortoise. Xian Yanqing said, What? Little girl, what did you say? How can this little thing be compared to the seat? You. Dandan was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He jumped onto Lu Ming's other shoulder and glared at Xian Yanqing. At the same time, he carefully paid attention to the space-time spirit mouse, afraid that it would kick him down again. Isn't it? Xian Yanqing curled his lips, then looked at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, have you given it a name? In my opinion, why don't we call it Bubbles? How cute! Xian Yanqing carefully approached and stroked the space-time spirit mouse. Bubbles, be good, let me hug you. Xian Yanqing whispered very gently. This time, the space-time spirit mouse didn't refuse and let Xian Yanqing approach. Xian Yanqing stroked it a few times first, then hugged the space-time spirit mouse in his arms with a happy look. Bubbles, it's quite appropriate. Lu Ming smiled. Everyone's attention was on Bubbles, which made Dandan angry. Let's go back to the Southern Divine Palace. Mu Ju, Mu family. This debt will be settled sooner or later. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. The Mu family could only secretly send people to deal with them. They wouldn't dare to do so in public. Otherwise, what would the young experts from other continents think if they knew? Therefore, they could swagger back to the Southern Divine Palace. In less than an hour, they returned to the Southern Divine Palace. The Southern Divine Palace was even more lively, with people coming and going. The young geniuses from the 9 continents in the southern part of the continent of God had already arrived. They had all ended their seclusion and were wandering around the streets. because there were only 2 days left before they set off for the ancient city of God to participate in the heavenly God-sex selection. Everyone came out to relax. The Moo family is holding a stone gambling event. Is that so? Let's go and have a look. Suddenly, someone shouted on the street, and suddenly, many people gathered in one direction. Stone gambling event. The few of them were stunned. Lu Ming casually pulled a person over and asked, then he knew what was going on. The continent of God's ruins was the ancient mine of God's ruins. Peerless treasures could be found in the ancient mine of God, which made many people very tempted. However, not all ancient mines of God could produce treasures, and the probability was very low. Every once in a while, the major forces of the Southern Divine Palace would take out many ancient mines of God for people to choose from. Of course, they had to pay the price of origin stones. The Moo family, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Together with Xian Yanqing and Long Qin, they followed the crowd and headed forward. Soon, they arrived at a large square. At this time, the square was surrounded by a sea of people. There were many shelves in the square, and on the shelves there were pieces of ancient mines of God. At a glance, there were thousands of pieces. Thousands of pieces seemed like a lot, but it was nothing to a major force. How many people were there in a major force? There were people wandering around the ancient mines of God every day. After a few years, it was normal to have thousands of pieces of ancient mines of God. On one side of the shelves, there was a high platform where the experts of the Moo family sat. Mu Ju was sitting in the middle. Chapter 1223. Humph, Lu Ming, Long Qin, you guys are lucky to have died in the core of the ruins of God. Otherwise, I would have killed both of you. Also, it's a pity for that Xian Yanqing, such a beauty. Mu Ju thought in his heart, seeing that more and more people were gathering in the square. He felt that it was about time. He stood up and looked around. His voice came from afar. Today, my Moo family is holding a stone gambling event. I have taken out all the ancient mines that my Moo family has collected for decades. There must be a peerless treasure inside. If you want to gamble, you can come up and choose carefully. If you choose one, you can take it away for 100,000 origin stones. Mu Ju announced the rules of the stone gambling event. 100,000 origin stones. It's really expensive. Some people gasped. It's really expensive. In the past, when other families held a stone gambling event, it wasn't that expensive. It's too expensive. Usually it's not that expensive to buy ancient mines of God. Many people began to discuss. For a moment, no one went up. In fact, many people knew that the ancient mines of God that these big families took out were all carefully selected. The ancient mines of God that might contain treasures had already been filtered out. Those that were taken out were all carefully selected. The probability of a treasure being found was not high. It was too expensive to sell it for 100,000 origin stones. Mu Ju's face turned cold. Usually when we buy ancient mines of God, we can't let you choose carefully. But now we can. Moreover, I guarantee that these ancient mines of God are all of high quality. I guarantee it with the Mu family's reputation. Let me try. Let me try too. As soon as Mu Ju's voice fell, a few burly men stepped forward and carefully selected among the thousands of origin stones. After a while, the burly men finished their selection and paid 100,000 origin stones each. Cut it open and see. Someone shouted. All right, the burly men nodded. In the beginning, 2 burly men cut open the ancient mine of God. There was nothing inside. When the 3rd burly man cut open the ancient mine of God, a rainbow light shot out from the ancient mine of God. A treasure has appeared, a treasure has appeared. The crowd was in an uproar as they stared with their eyes wide open. A jade sword. God, it's so powerful, someone exclaimed. Inside the ruins of God's ancient mine that the burly man had cut open, there was actually a small and exquisite jade sword that emitted a terrifying fluctuation. Even though countless years had passed, causing it to lose some of its essence. As long as it was nurtured properly, it would still be a formidable weapon. This seems to be an emperor spirit weapon. Someone cried out in alarm, causing the crowd to burst into a frenzy. We really found treasures. Mu Ju was right. This batch of ancient ores is really exquisite. This jade sword is worth at least tens of millions of primordial stones, or even more. 100,000 primordial stones for tens of millions of primordial stones. Looking at the jade sword, many people's eyes lit up. Haha! The big man quickly put away the jade sword and left. It's only 100,000 origin stones. Let's take a gamble. If we get it, it'll be worth it. Yes, let's take a gamble. At this moment, many people were moved. They walked onto the plaza and began to carefully sense it. Then, they each chose a piece of the ruins of God Ancient Mine. Of course, every piece of ancient mine of the ruins of God had to pay 100,000 origin stones. Soon, more than 10 people had chosen the ancient ores. A smile appeared on Muju's face. Cut it open and see. Someone shouted. Immediately, those who had chosen the ancient ores began to cut them open one by one. Unfortunately, none of the dozens of people present found any treasures. How unlucky! I wasted 100,000 origin stones. Damn it, if others can choose, I can too. Damn it, again. Some people were ruthless and picked a few pieces in a row, but they found nothing. That big man is most likely a drag. Lu Ming and the others were mixed in the crowd. At this moment, Lu Ming said with a smile. Xian Yinqing and Long Qin nodded. At the beginning, those big men were most likely cooperating with the Mu family to put on a show to provoke others to go up and pick the ancient ores. In a few moments, dozens of ancient ores were sold and millions of origin stones were earned. It was completely a free profit. Gradually, fewer people went up, but there were still people who went up from time to time to try their luck. In the end, they came up empty-handed. Dandan, you can sense the treasures in these ancient ores. Are there really treasures in these thousands of ancient ores? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Dandan. Yes, but there are very few of them. Only a few of them have good things. Do you want them? I can pick them out one by one. Dandan said. Of course I want them. Only a fool would not want the treasures. Moreover, they belong to the Mu family. Lu Ming smiled and stepped into the square. Mu Ju was originally sitting lazily on a chair. His mind was filled with thoughts of how to show his prowess in the Heavenly God Sect's disciple selection, how to be chosen by the Heavenly God Sect and enter the Heavenly God Sect of Yuanlu to cultivate. From then on, he would soar to the 9 heavens and break through to the martial emperor realm or even the sage realm. Just as he was dreaming, he suddenly saw a familiar figure walking into the square. Mu Ju's eyes suddenly widened. His body trembled, and he jumped up from the chair. Lu Ming, you're still alive? How is that possible? Mu Ju shouted in disbelief. He was truly in disbelief. Didn't Lu Ming enter the core of the ruins of God? Moreover, he had been in the core of the ruins of God for more than half a month. Even an Emperor Realm expert would not be able to come out after such a long time. Now, Lu Ming actually swaggered in front of him. How could he not be shocked? Then he looked around. As expected, he found Xian Yinqing and Long Qin in the crowd. This made him even more shocked. What's wrong? Young Master Mu, what's so strange about me being alive? Lu Ming asked with a cold smile. Nothing. After a long while, Mu Ju finally calmed down. His face was extremely gloomy. Damn it, why aren't these guys dead yet? Damn it, I must find a chance to kill them. Otherwise, I won't be able to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Mu Ju thought to himself. His killing intent was extremely strong. I want to gamble a few rounds. Young Master Mu, do you not welcome me? Lu Ming asked with a faint smile. My Mu family is open to business. Anyone who wants to gamble on stones is welcome. You can choose as you wish. Mu said. After saying that, he sat back down on his chair with a gloomy face. He was thinking about some conspiracy in his heart. Lu Ming smiled and casually strolled around the many ancient mines of the ruins of God. After a while, he casually pointed at an ancient mine and said, "This one." Picking up this ancient mine of the ruins of God, Lu Ming paid 100,000 ores. "Cut it open and take a look." Someone shouted, "All right, then, I'll cut it open and take a look." Lu Ming smiled. His true essence was like a knife, cutting the ancient mine of the ruins of God into two halves. Suddenly, a golden light spread out from the ancient mine of the ruins of God. "A treasure has appeared. Another treasure has appeared." Someone exclaimed. Mu also suddenly stood up from his chair. His eyes were wide open. Lu Ming had actually chosen an ancient mine of the ruins of God with a treasure. Many people opened their eyes wide, wanting to see what kind of treasure it was. Earth Emperor Spirit. It's actually an Earth Emperor Spirit. Chapter 1224. It was a block-shaped object that looked like a tree root. Its entire body was golden like gold, but it emitted a strong medicinal fragrance. Earth Emperor Essence, one of the main spiritual materials to refine Nirvana Pill. Lu Ming never thought that he would find it in a piece of God Ruins ancient mine. How could Lu Ming not be happy? After obtaining this piece of Earth Emperor Essence, he only lacked one of the 7 main materials to refine Nirvana Pill. As long as he gathered the 7 main materials, the other auxiliary materials would be easy to find. At that time, he could start refining Nirvana Pill. That's Earth Emperor Essence. It's really a piece of Earth Emperor Essence. It's really a big profit. A piece of Earth Emperor Essence is worth tens of millions of ores. His luck is too good. It's just the first piece, and he already found a treasure. Around the square, there were people who recognized the Earth Emperor Essence and exclaimed in envy. "Damn it, this Lu Ming. How can his luck be so good? He actually found a treasure." Mu face was gloomy and his eyes were cold. He was very clear in his heart that each piece of God Ruins ancient mine was carefully examined by the Mu family's experts. As long as there was a possibility of a treasure being found, the Mu family would keep it. There were thousands of pieces of God Ruins ancient mine here. There might be some that slipped through the net and might contain treasures, but there were very few of them. Thousands of pieces added together. There might not be many pieces, but Lu Ming had found a piece that was worth tens of millions of ores. Mu felt a little heartache. He had just sold dozens of pieces of God Ruins ancient mine and only earned a few million ores. Lu Ming happily took out a jade box and carefully put away the Earth Emperor Essence. Then his eyes lit up as he glanced at the other God Ruins ancient mine. At the same time he laughed. "Ha ha ha, my luck is really good today. It seems that I have to choose another one." After saying that, he wandered around the pile of ancient mines. "Humph, you're just lucky. Choose, choose. I don't believe you can find another one." Mu thought in his heart. Lu Ming wandered for a while and casually grabbed an ancient mine, saying, "This is it." After grabbing it, he went to the Mu family and paid 100,000 ores. "Cut it open and see." Someone jeered. Just now, Lu Ming had obtained a treasure on the first piece. Many people were very curious and wanted to know if Lu Ming would be able to obtain a treasure on the second piece. "All right." Lu Ming smiled, condensed his true essence, and started cutting. "It's impossible for me to get another treasure this time. I was just lucky to get the first one. There are very few people who can get 2 treasures in a row," someone said. But in the next moment, his mouth fell open and he was dumbfounded. This was because the ancient or in Lu Ming's hand was emitting a blinding crimson light. Many people were stunned, and then a commotion broke out. "Treasure! There's another treasure!" He actually got a treasure twice in a row. How rare! This person's luck is too heaven-defying. 1 drop of blood essence. What a powerful blood essence! It's actually a drop of blood essence. Lu Ming himself was a little stunned. He carefully cut open the ancient ore, and a drop of crystal clear blood essence, like a blood gem, appeared in Lu Ming's palm, exuding an incomparably rich blood essence. This was definitely an extremely powerful existence. After his death, his blood essence was coincidentally sealed in the ancient or of God ruins and passed down. Its value was immeasurable. If it was used to refine pills, it would bring out the energy in the blood essence. It would be of great help to a cultivator's cultivation. It's actually a drop of blood essence. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was currently lacking blood essence to improve his bloodline. Lu Ming had a feeling that if he refined this drop of blood essence, his bloodline would be greatly improved. How can this be? Mu Ju's eyes widened, and he subconsciously crushed a purple jade teacup in his hand. Damn it! Mu Ju roared in his heart. The value of this drop of blood essence was even higher than the Earth Emperor essence. He felt that he had suffered a great loss. How good would it be if they cut it out themselves, now that it had been chosen by someone else? And it was Lu Ming. Mu Ju gnashed his teeth in anger. Lu Ming laughed heartily. He took out a jade bottle and kept the drop of blood essence. He could not stop muttering, "Luck, luck. I'm really lucky today. Haha, let's continue." Lu Ming's gaze began to look around the ancient or of God ruins again. Mu Ju and the rest of the Mu family couldn't help but feel nervous. They were worried that Lu Ming would choose another ancient or of God ruins that contained treasures. Mu Ju wanted to stop Lu Ming from continuing to choose, but they were open to do business. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, what reason did they have to stop Lu Ming from continuing to choose? They could only hope that Lu Ming was just lucky the first 2 times, and that he wouldn't be able to choose anything later. This time, Lu Ming was even faster. After taking a few casual glances, he chose an ancient mine and paid 100,000 primordial stones. Cut it open and take a look. Right, take a look. Many people shouted in excitement. Lu Ming had cut out treasures twice in a row. Would he be able to cut out treasures 3 times in a row? Mu Ju and the other members of the Mu family also stared with their eyes wide open. Impossible, impossible. There aren't that many treasures in all of the ancient or of God ruins here. Mu Ju kept praying in his heart. Crack! Lu Ming's true essence was like a blade as he began to cut. After a few consecutive slashes, the ancient or of God ruins cracked open and a faint brilliance emitted out. Accompanying the brilliance was an extremely dense medicinal fragrance. The crowd was stunned. After a long while, an earth-shattering clamor erupted. He had cut out another treasure. He had actually cut out another treasure. It had happened 3 times in a row. It was simply too shocking. Could it be that this time the Mu family really had a conscience and took out so many high-quality ancient or of God ruins? As Lu Ming continued to cut open, the treasures in the ancient or of God ruins revealed their true colors. It was a spiritual medicine. It was purple like a lotus flower. On it, there was an indescribable fluctuation. The medicinal fragrance was extremely rich. Could it be a saint medicine? A white-haired old man exclaimed in disbelief. Saint medicine? How is that possible? Oh my God, that's impossible. The others also exclaimed in disbelief. What was a saint medicine? It was a supreme treasure that surpassed level 9 spiritual medicine. Even saints could use it. Even emperors would fight crazily when they saw it. Many people's eyes revealed a fiery light as they stared fixedly at the purple lotus flower in Lu Ming's hand. No, it's not a saint medicine. It hasn't completely evolved. It's a half-saint medicine. Moreover, it's been sealed for many years. Most of its spiritual essence has been lost. What a pity! The white-haired old man carefully identified it and shook his head with a sigh. So it's not a saint medicine. Some people let out a long breath, but many people's eyes lit up. Chapter 1225. No, impossible. Muju's eyes almost popped out as he stared at Lu Ming and the semi-sage medicine in Lu Ming's hand. He couldn't wait to swallow the semi-sage medicine in one gulp. The expressions of the other members of the Mu family weren't any better. Pain in the flesh, heart, liver, and lungs. This was originally a treasure of their Mu family, but now it had become someone else's, Lu Ming's. These carefully selected ancient mines of the ruins of God actually contained such a treasure. If they had known earlier, they would never have taken it out to sell. Semi-sage medicine. Danden's eyes lit up as he stared at the semi-sage medicine. His eyes lit up and his mouth began to drool. Give it to me, give it to me. Danden kept muttering, It's a waste to give it to you now. Keep it first and plant it in the mysterious yellow silicon soil later. When it recovers, its value will be great. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Danden and then carefully kept it. Although this semi-sage medicine had lost most of its spirituality, Lu Ming had a supreme treasure like the mysterious yellow silicon soil. He might be able to cultivate it again. The value of an intact semi-sage medicine was many times higher. After all, it had the word sage in it. I want to try too. So many treasures, it's amazing. The others' hearts were burning. Their eyes lit up as dozens of people went up to choose ancient mines of the ruins of God. Dozens of people carefully selected a piece and paid 100,000 origin stones each. However, it still didn't make Mu Ju and the other members of the Mu family feel better. Dozens of people only added up to a few million origin stones. It couldn't be compared to the treasures that Lu Ming had obtained. Lu Ming had obtained 3 treasures, each more precious than the other. They were worth at least tens of millions. Cut it open and let's see. A young woman hurriedly cut open the ancient mine she had chosen. Unfortunately, there was nothing inside. Then the others also cut it open, but there was nothing inside. In the end, out of the several dozen people, not a single one of them had any treasures. What's going on? We've picked dozens of pieces, but we can't even cut one. That Lu Ming picked one and hit one. The difference is too big. Someone sighed. Could it be that he can sense the situation inside the ancient mine of God? Otherwise, how could he choose one piece and hit the jackpot? Someone guessed. As soon as these words were spoken, many people were shocked. That's right, Lu Ming was able to be selected 3 times in a row. This was too shocking. If it was the first time, it was still possible. Even if it was the second time, it was still possible. Although the probability was very small, if it was the 3rd time, the probability was simply too small. Lu Ming, it was extremely likely that he could sense the specific situation inside the ruins of God Ancient Mine. Everyone's eyes fell on Lu Ming. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up into a smile, and his gaze swept across the ancient mine of God again. Lu Ming, that's enough. Suddenly, Mu Ju opened his mouth, looking coldly at Lu Ming. Enough? Young Master Mu, I wonder what you mean by this? Lu Ming said indifferently, Today, you have already cut out 3 treasures in a row. It's time to stop. Mu Ju said coldly, Stop? Ha ha ha, what a joke. Is this how you open the door to do business? Seeing that I have cut out a few more treasures, you don't let me cut it out. Then why didn't you stop others from cutting out treasures? Could it be that you can only earn and not lose when doing business? If that's the case, then there's no need for others to do business with your Mu family in the future. Lu Ming sneered and mocked. You're talking nonsense. Mu Ju shouted angrily. Oh, since I'm talking nonsense, then don't stop me. Lu Ming sneered, then strode forward, grabbed a piece of ancient mine of God Ancient Mine with one hand, and paid 100,000 origin stones. Cut it open and see. Many people shouted, their eyes burning with passion. Could it be that Lu Ming could really sense the treasures inside the ancient mine of God Ancient Mine? Then, what treasures would he be able to cut out this time? Countless people were looking forward to it. Muju's face was cold, but he didn't stop him. Swish, swish. Lu Ming's true essence was like a blade, and began to cut open the ancient mine. Kacha! The ancient mine cracked open, but only one layer. Inside was still a piece of ancient mine of God, ancient mine. It's actually 2 layers of ore, someone said. Lu Ming was also curious and continued to cut. Soon, another layer was broken, but below it was still yellow ore. Another layer. What's going on? It's actually 3 layers. Could it be that this is a waste mine and Lu Ming finally failed? It seems like he failed. It's impossible to cut out treasures every time. Some people discussed, while Muju and the other members of the Mu family also let out a long sigh of relief. Dandan, is there really a treasure inside? Lu Ming secretly sent a sound transmission to Dandan. Of course. What kind of existence am I? How could I be wrong? Dandan stretched out its head with a proud face. Lu Ming nodded and continued to cut. However, after breaking open a layer of ore, there was still a layer of ore below. Lu Ming continued to cut, and one after another, there were 7 layers of ore wrapped around the ore. Everyone was speechless. How could there be so many layers of ore wrapped around the ore? The other ancient mines only had 1 layer, and it was rare to see 2 layers. This time, there were actually 7 layers. Now, it was only the size of an egg, and it was basically impossible for there to be any treasures inside. However, Lu Ming's gaze was firm, and he continued to cut. Kacha! The ancient mine cracked open. This time, strands of red light seeped out from the ancient mine. At the same time, a terrifyingly high temperature seeped out from the ancient mine, causing the temperature of the entire square to rise rapidly. However, no one felt the heat. Everyone just looked at Lu Ming in a daze, looking at the egg-sized ancient mine in his hand. A treasure was cut out, and another treasure was cut out. A treasure was cut out 4 times in a row. Everyone felt numb, but they instinctively thought that a treasure was cut out this time. Damn it! How is this possible? Damn it! Muju roared in his heart, and his eyes were bloodshot. Kacha! Lu Ming used a little force, and the ancient mine completely cracked open. A red stone the size of a longan was revealed. The red light spread out, and a terrifying heat wave swept in all directions, causing the temperature of the square to rise by a few thousand degrees. It's so hot, too hot. What kind of treasure is this? It looks like a small sun. Many people had to circulate their true essence to resist the terrifying heat. Oh my God, is this the divine sunstone? Someone exclaimed, full of disbelief. Divine sunstone. Yes, this is the divine sunstone. Legend has it that it can only be born in the core of the sun. I've read about it in ancient books. Oh my God, it can't be. Is this really the divine sunstone? A supreme treasure. Chapter 1226. It's actually a piece of divine sunstone. Even Lu Ming himself was somewhat dumbfounded. He was very shocked. Legend has it that the divine sunstone was born from the core of the sun. It would take countless years for one to be born. Its value was immeasurable. If used properly, it could unleash terrifying power. Lu Ming never thought that he would find such a treasure in the ancient mine of God. How is it? Kid, I said there's a treasure. Why would I lie to you? Why would I make an error in judgment? Dandan was immensely proud of herself, looking as if she was about to ascend to the heavens. In the crowd, Xian Yinqing revealed a smile, while Long Chun was a little stunned. He realized that he couldn't see through Lu Ming anymore. Divine sunstone, it's actually a piece of divine sunstone. Muju's eyes widened in disbelief as he muttered in a daze. After a while, his eyes emitted blazing flames. Lu Ming, quickly hand over the divine sunstone to me. Muju shouted, attracting everyone's attention. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the divine sunstone into the mountain river diagram. Then he looked at Muju as if he was looking at an idiot. Hand it over to you? This is mine. You want me to hand it over to you? You want to buy it from me? Sorry, I'm not selling it. Lu Ming said indifferently. What do you mean it's yours? This is clearly my Mu family's treasure. You dare to take my Mu family's treasure? Quickly hand it over. Mu Ju shouted. His eyes were blazing. What an idiot. Your Mu family? Just now it was yours. But now that I've bought it, it's mine. Do you think so many people are blind? Can't they see it? Lu Ming mocked. Ridiculous. I just said enough. I told you not to pick any more stones. I haven't agreed to let you pick any more stones. You're the one who wants to pick. This divine sun stone naturally belongs to my Mu family. Mu Ju quibbled. Then why are you still accepting my 100,000 origin stones? Since you've taken my origin stones, this is mine. Lu Ming sneered. I don't care. I didn't agree. Hurry up and hand over the divine sunstone. You can't swallow such a treasure. Mu Ju shouted. His voice was cold, revealing a strong sense of threat. Ha ha ha, laughable, truly laughable. You've taken out so many ancient ores of the ruins of God for people to gamble on. Furthermore, each piece is sold for a high price of 100,000 origin stones. Now that you've seen someone else take out a treasure, you want to act shamelessly and force them to hand it over to you. All right, I'll hand it over to you. How many people have spent their money on useless ores in the stone gambling convention that your Mu clan has held for so many years? Spit out all the money. If you spit it out, I'll hand it over to you. Lu Ming sneered. Mu Ju was speechless, his face flushed red. How many years has it been since the Mu family held this stone gambling event? It was impossible to calculate. After so many years, it was impossible to calculate how many raw stones they had earned. How could they hand it over? When others earn a little from you, your heart aches. What about when you earn from others? Why aren't you spitting it out? How laughable! Let me tell you, although your Mu clan is powerful, the Southern God Palace is not your Mu clan's Southern God Palace. If you want to cover the sky with one hand, you'll have to ask everyone here if they agree. Lu Ming sneered. Then he turned around and flew toward Xia Nianqing's direction. Stop right there. Two Mu clan experts in front of Lu Ming stretched out their claws and grabbed at Lu Ming. Both of them were at the peak of the 8th level spirit god realm. Get lost, Lu Ming yelled and struck with his palm. The majestic palm force sent the two powerful figures of the Mu family flying out. What? You want to use force? Is this how your Mu clan does business? Then, I don't think anyone else will do business with your Mu clan in the future. Lu Ming shouted. Many people looked at the Mu clan with unfriendly eyes. If the Mu clan did business like this, they would snatch other people's treasures. In the future, who would do business with the Mu clan? If the Mu clan held a stone gambling convention, who would choose stones? If they were like Lu Ming and obtained a supreme treasure, wouldn't the Mu clan have to take it back? Damn it! Mu Ju roared in his heart. He really wanted to ask people to cut Lu Ming into pieces, but he didn't dare. If he really did so, the Mu clan's reputation would be ruined. He could only watch as Lu Ming left. Let's go. Lu Ming came to Xian Yanqing and Long Chen's side. Then, the three of them rose into the air and flew towards General Peak. After flying for a while, Lu Ming stopped again. His voice came from afar. Everyone, I can indeed sense the situation in the ancient mine of God. So, the remaining ancient mines are all useless. There are no treasures. With that, Lu Ming laughed loudly. He stepped out with Xian Yanqing and Long Chen and left in an instant. Mu Ju gritted his teeth and shouted out Lu Ming's name. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He couldn't wait to cut Lu Ming into pieces. After hearing Lu Ming's words, who else would go up to choose stones? Sure enough, there was a burst of discussion around the square. There's no more. The rest are all useless. Lu Ming must be able to sense the situation in the ancient mine of God. If he said there's no more, then there's no more. There are thousands of ancient mines in the ancient mine of God, and only 4 of them have treasures. The Mu clan is really a scam. Let's go. They're all useless. What's the point of choosing? The people in the square shook their heads and then flew in all directions. After a while, there was no one left in the square. Only the Mu clan's people were left. Ah! Mu Ju let out a sound like a wild boar. He was incomparably angry. This time, the Mu clan's stone gambling conference was completely ruined. Lu Ming took out 4 treasures. Moreover, no one would buy them anymore. With so many ancient mines in the ancient mine of God, the loss was disastrous. Lu Ming must die. Damn it, I must find a way to kill him. Mu Ju roared crazily in his heart. Lu Ming's mood was the opposite of his. He was very happy. The 4 treasures were each more precious than the last, especially the divine sunstone at the end. It was simply a priceless treasure. They spent a total of 400,000 origin stones to get 4 such precious treasures. They made a big profit. Soon, the 3 of them returned to the General's Peak. When they arrived at the General's Peak, Xian Yinqing's eyes looked forward. In front of them, Xian Yinjuan was wearing a snow-white robe. She was like a fairy from the 9th heaven who had descended to the mortal world. Beside Xian Yinjuan, there was a young man in white. He was extraordinarily handsome. He was the kind of person who would attract everyone's attention when he stood in the crowd. He was born high and mighty, and everyone looked up to him. This was an extraordinary hero, because with just a glance, Lu Ming felt a strong pressure from this person. It was a dangerous pressure. Xian Yinjuan looked at Xian Yinqing and Lu Ming. He snorted with slight disdain and hostility. That girl is your sister. The white-robed man looked at Xian Yinqing and asked Xian Yinjuan. He was a little surprised. Just a weirdo. Don't bother about him. Xian Yinjuan said. Then he left the General's Peak with the white-robed man. Chapter 1227. I'm the F.A. benefactors. You have to be careful of that man in white. At this moment, a Buddhist chant sounded and Monk Wuliang appeared. Monk, do you know who he is? Lu Ming asked. Yes, because Xian Yinjuan has been very close to this person. There are 3 strongest supreme talents in the younger generation of South God Palace. This person is one of them, Wang Zhen. Monk Wuliang said. This person is Wang Zhen. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The 3 strongest geniuses of the younger generation of Southern God Palace were all extraordinary geniuses. Each of them was terrifying, and their cultivation levels were unfathomable. One of them was Ji Hongqin. Lu Ming had met him before, and he was indeed extraordinary. He did not expect Xian Yinjuan to be so close to Wang Zhen, one of the 3 great geniuses of the Southern God Palace. Thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fists and returned to his room with Xian Yinqing and Long Qin. Lu Ming entered his room and entered the mountain river diagram. First, he planted the purple lotus, a sage-level herb, beside the tree of enlightenment on the mysterious yellow silicon soil. Then Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the peak of a mountain, and a drop of blood essence appeared in his hand. It was the blood essence that he had cut out from the ancient mine of the ruins of God. Lu Ming planned to devour and refine this drop of blood essence to see if the 9 Dragons bloodline could be promoted to a level 9 divine grade. Previously, Lu Ming had refined 4 drops of sovereign blood essence, but the 9 Dragons bloodline had not been promoted. This time it was a glimmer of hope. Without hesitation, the 9 Dragons bloodline swallowed the drop of blood essence. After the drop of blood essence was swallowed, it did not immediately crumble. Instead, it turned into wisps of pure energy and was constantly refined and converted into the power of the 9 Dragons bloodline. The energy of this drop of blood essence was extremely vast and boundless. Lu Ming tried his best to refine it. In the blink of an eye, almost 3 days had passed. The energy of this drop of blood essence was finally completely refined. On the 9 dragons' bloodline, 8 golden chakras shone brightly. It was so bright that one could not open their eyes. Suddenly above the 8 brilliant golden chakras, the 9th golden chakra emerged. The 9th golden chakra represented a level 9 divine level bloodline. The 9 dragons' bloodline had finally advanced to the 9th level of the divine realm. Moreover, after the 9th golden chakra appeared, it was dark golden at first, but it soon became brighter and brighter. Finally, all the 9 golden chakras became as bright as the last one. The 9 dragons' bloodline had finally reached perfection. Roar! At this time, Lu Ming heard an earth-shattering dragon roar in his mind. At the same time, Lu Ming seemed to see an enormous dragon with 9 dragon claws under its abdomen, soaring and dancing in the air. The 9 dragons stepped on the sky, their might shocking the heavens. Boom! Lu Ming's mind was buzzing and exploding. At this moment, many things seemed to appear in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming sensed it carefully and realized that it was a memory about the 9 dragons. Unfortunately, it was fragmented, only some memory fragments, extremely rare. The foundation of the true dragon of battle arts. Lu Ming found the foundation of the true dragon of battle arts in the 9 dragons' memory fragments. Only the foundation of battle arts, what a pity. Lu Ming sighed. There should be more chapters of the true dragon of battle arts, but in the fragmented memory fragments of the 9 dragons, Lu Ming only found the foundation of battle arts, and the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. Lu Ming found the cultivation method of the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. Unfortunately, he already had it and did not need it. In addition, he found a few martial techniques, but they were not as good as the true dragon of battle arts and the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps, so they were not useful to Lu Ming. My 9 dragons bloodline was only awakened with a drop of 9 dragons blood essence. Is it because it was only a drop of blood essence that I received fragmented memory fragments? If I want to get more, I need more 9 dragons blood essence. Lu Ming pondered. Lu Ming sat cross-legged for a while and checked carefully. Finally, he found something new. Is this about the 9 dragons' ruins? Lu Ming discovered some content and was deep in thought. The 9 dragons' ruins were located at the border between Eastern Wilderness and Middle Continent in the chaotic region. Back then, Supreme 9 Sons had risked his life to enter the 9 dragons' ruins. In the end, he had obtained 2 drops of 9 dragons' blood essence, the true dragon of battle arts, and the cultivation method of the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. Because of that, he had been seriously injured. The 9 dragons' ruins might contain all 9 dragons' blood essence. If I can obtain all 9 dragons' blood essence, I might be able to obtain all 9 dragons' legacies. It seems that after I'm done with the Godly Ruins continent, I'll have to go to the 9 dragons' ruins when I return to the divine Wilderness continent. Lu Ming pondered. The only thing that excited Lu Ming was that the 9 dragons' bloodline had advanced to the 9th level of the divine grade and had finally produced another dragon force. The 9th dragon force. The 9th dragon force is so powerful. Lu Ming sensed it and showed a hint of excitement. The 9th dragon force was much stronger than any of the previous dragon forces. If I release the 9th dragon force, I might be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the prison-suppressing monument bloodline. Lu Ming pondered. The prison-suppressing monument bloodline was a fragment of the prison-suppressing monument's original body. It was very powerful and was Lu Ming's strongest killing move. However, Lu Ming felt that if he released the 9th dragon force, it might not be weaker than the prison-suppressing monument bloodline. This way, Lu Ming had one more killing move. Suddenly, Lu Ming's mind moved and he exited the mountain river diagram. When he appeared in the room, Xian Yinqing opened the door and walked in. Lu Ming, it's time. We have to go to the ancient city of gods. Xian Yinqing said, Okay. Lu Ming nodded. Clang, clang. At this time, a melodious bell rang from somewhere in the southern divine palace. This was the bell that summoned the elites of all continents. At this moment, Long Chen, Yang Patian, and Scrupulous Monk, Underworld Child, and the others walked out of their rooms and flew towards the sound of the bell. Soon they arrived at a square. There are already some young experts standing in the square. These young people were divided into different regions and gathered together. Obviously, they were all elites from different continents. There were more and less people. Some had 7 or 8 people, and some had 30 to 40 people. Lu Ming was shocked. Those who could come here were basically peerless elites who had awakened a level 9 divine bloodline. There were only 12 of them in the entire divine wilderness continent, but some continents had 30 to 40 of them. It was really shocking. The difference in strength between the continents was obvious. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The sound of something breaking through the air could be heard as 50 to 60 young figures flew over. Lu Ming saw Wang Zhen in white and Ji Hongqin in the crowd. However, Wang Zhen and Ji Hongqin were half a step behind another purple-haired youth. This purple-haired youth was flying at the front. Lu Ming also saw Mu Ju in the crowd. Mu Ju looked around, and when he saw Lu Ming, his eyes emitted a cold light. Chapter 1228. The number of geniuses from the Southern Divine Palace who were qualified to participate in the celestial god sect selection was around 50 to 60. The Godly Ruins continent was indeed the number 1 continent in the Godly Ruins continent. The number of geniuses there was shocking. The Southern Divine Palace was only one of the 4 major factions in the Godly Ruins continent. With so many geniuses, one could imagine how terrifying the top 3 geniuses were. When the geniuses from the Southern Divine Palace arrived, a loud cry could be heard from the horizon. Huge beasts were flying toward them. They were flying leopards. Their bodies were pitch black, but they had fleshy wings. When they spread their wings, they were more than 100 meters wide. There were at least 20 of them, and each of them had a powerful aura that made people feel pressured. Great Circle Spiritual God Realm. There were more than 20 flying leopards, and they were all at the Great Circle Spiritual God Realm. A black-robed, middle-aged man stood on one of the flying leopards. He was the same man who had brought Lu Ming and the others to the divine wilderness continent. He was a 3rd-level martial royal realm elder of the Southern Divine Palace. Behind him stood 2 old men who emitted the aura of martial emperors. However, their status was obviously lower than the black-robed, middle-aged man. All of you, get on the flying leopards and follow me to the ancient city of the Godly Ruins. The black-robed, middle-aged man said in a deep voice, Yes. The geniuses from the Southern Divine Palace were the first to respond. They stepped into the air and flew onto different flying leopards. Then the geniuses from the other continents also flew into the air and flew toward the flying leopards. Lu Ming and the rest of the people from the divine wilderness continent gathered on a flying leopard. Let's go, the black-robed, middle-aged man announced. More than 20 flying leopards roared and flew into the sky. Then, like black lightning, they flew toward the ancient city of the Godly Ruins at an astonishing speed. The flying beasts at the Great Circle Spiritual God Realm were traveling at full speed. However, the ancient city of the Godly Ruins was in the center of the Southern Divine Palace. Even with the flying leopard speed, it would take them 2 days to reach the ancient city of the Godly Ruins. Whoosh whoosh, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood side by side and looked at the mountains and rivers below. Lu Ming, there are people from 2 continents watching us. Xian Yanqing said to Lu Ming. Yeah, I saw it too. Lu Ming nodded and looked to the left. On one of the flying leopards, there were many youths wearing feathered clothes. Regardless of gender, they all had sharp eyes, and there were many of them. There were actually more than 40 of them. apart from the southern god palace. This was the continent with the most people. Mu-ju. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold because he saw Mu-ju's figure among these people. At this moment, Mu-ju was also coldly looking at Lu Ming and the others. "Brother Mu, are they the ones who offended you?" One of the feather-clad youths looked at Lu Ming and said indifferently, "That's right, it's them, especially that Lu Ming. I want him dead." Mu-ju said resentfully, "He's just a piece of trash from the divine wilderness continent. Don't worry, if there's a chance, we'll get rid of him. That woman, on the other hand, isn't bad. We can keep her and enjoy her." The feather-clad youths said indifferently, as if killing Lu Ming was as simple as eating and drinking for them. They didn't put Lu Ming in their eyes at all. "Then, I'll learn from Brother Yu." Mu-ju was overjoyed. At the same time, on another flying leopard, there were also some youths looking coldly at Lu Ming. Lu Ming knew a few of them. They were the few Heaven's Prides who were defeated by Lu Ming in the Divine Ruins. "You were defeated by that person?" One of the Heaven's Prides from the continent asked indifferently. "Yes, this person's combat strength is pretty good," one of the youths who was defeated by Lu Ming replied. "What do you mean by pretty good combat strength? He's just a piece of trash from the divine wilderness continent. What's so good about him? You're just trash." That young man scolded coldly. The few young men who had been defeated by Lu Ming blushed and did not know what to say. "However, no matter what, you're still from the divine wilderness continent. Knowing that you're from the divine wilderness continent, you still dared to make a move. I'll remember this. I'll kill those people when I see them." The youth spoke. He had short hair and looked very confident. On the flying leopard that Lu Ming was on, Long Chun walked towards Lu Ming and Mu-ju. "Lu Ming, you have to be careful. The people from the White Feather Continent and the Divine Wilderness Continent have their eyes on us." Long Chin reminded, "The 4th ranked White Feather Continent and the 9th ranked Divine Wilderness Continent. If they don't know what's good for them, we can only send them on their way." Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Long Chen's eyes lit up. He nodded and left without saying anything. Hundreds of millions of miles of mountains and rivers passed by in a flash. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. An ancient city that was even more magnificent than the southern divine palace appeared in front of them. This was the ancient city of Divine Ruins, the most majestic and ancient city in the Divine Ruins continent. In the Divine Ruins continent, the 4 major forces were the Eastern, Western, Southern, and Southern Divine Palaces. In fact, a long time ago, the 4 Divine Palaces belonged to one force, which was the Divine Gate. The ancient city of Divine Ruins was the headquarters of the Divine Gate. But now, the 4 Divine Palaces reigned supreme, and the Divine Gate was divided into 4. No force could occupy the ancient city of Divine Ruins for their own use. Therefore, the ancient city of Divine Ruins was very special. It was a city shared by the 4 Divine Palaces. Usually, some people would be stationed here. If the 4 Divine Palaces had any major matters, they would discuss it in the ancient city of Divine Ruins. The flying leopard didn't stop and flew directly into the ancient city of Divine Ruins, towards the center of the city. When they arrived at the center of the ancient city of Divine Ruins, Lu Ming saw that there were 36 straight mountains that reached into the sky, forming the 36 heavenly dipper positions. In the sky above the 36 mountains, there were 9 ancient altars suspended in the air. They were filled with an ancient aura. At this time, the 36 mountains were surrounded by people. They were all local warriors of the ancient city of Divine Ruins. It's the Southern Divine Palace. The Southern Divine Palace and the 9 southern continents have arrived. A local warrior of the ancient city of Divine Ruins said, "Roar." The roars of ferocious beasts came from the west. Many huge tigers with wings on their backs flew over, carrying many young geniuses. The Western Divine Palace and the 9 continents have arrived. Someone shouted, "Western Divine Palace, Lu Ming looked to the west. There were also young prodigies riding on the giant tigers. They were also looking at them with sharp gazes. "Ha ha ha, you guys are early." A loud laugh came from the east. A fiery, red divine eagle flew over. The leader was a middle-aged man in a red robe. His aura suppressed the world and was not inferior to the middle-aged man in black from the southern divine palace. There were many young geniuses on the fiery, red, godly eagles as well. There were more of them than the South God Palace and the West God Palace. The Eastern Divine Palace and the 11 continents in the East had arrived. Whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 1229. North Divine Palace and the 12 continents in the North. Someone exclaimed. At the same time, the sky prides of South Divine Palace, West Divine Palace, and East Divine Palace all looked at the sky prides of North Divine Palace with solemn expressions. The 4 great divine palaces also had differences in strength. South Divine Palace and West Divine Palace were similar in strength and ranked last. East Divine Palace was slightly stronger than South Divine Palace and West Divine Palace. Among them, North Divine Palace was undoubtedly the strongest. That was because the second continent in the continent of divine ruins was in the north. In the direction of North Divine Palace, sky prides stood proudly. Powerful auras emanated from their bodies without restraint. There were close to 300 of them. At that moment, around the 36 mountains, sharp gazes pierced through the void like sharp swords. They were sizing each other up in the void. Gathered here were the strongest young sky prides of the continent of divine ruins. There were close to 1,000 of them. Close to 1,000 sky prides was a huge number. These sky prides were all experts who had awakened a level 9 divine bloodline. Every single one of them was a sky prides with great luck. Lion Do, Kong Lin, Yang Patian, Underworld Child, and the others of the divine wilderness continent all had solemn expressions. Deep in their eyes there was shock. In the divine wilderness continent, they were undoubtedly at the peak of existence. Each of them was destined to become sovereigns. They would be the center of attention and be invincible among their peers. They were all arrogant and thought that even if they were to leave the divine wilderness continent, they would not be weak. They were the best sky prides. However, at that moment their confidence was shaken. That was because there were close to 1,000 sky prides here. Every single one of them was no weaker than them. Some were even stronger. So many sky prides. This is more interesting. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He felt the blood in his body boiling. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Beside him, Long Chin was also filled with fighting spirit. They stood at the pinnacle of the divine wilderness continent and were invincible. But now they had so many opponents. This made their blood boil once again. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At that moment, a dozen figures moved. In a flash, they flew toward the 36 mountains. Lu Ming saw that there were 3 people from South Divine Palace. They were Ji Hongqin, Wang Zhen, and the purple-haired youth. Western Divine Palace also had 3 people, while Eastern Divine Palace and Northern Divine Palace had 4 each. There were a total of 14 of them, and they were the 14 strongest geniuses of the 4 divine palaces. Their names had long since shaken the entire divine ruins continent. The 14 of them each landed on the peak of a mountain, looking down on the other geniuses. Only the strongest geniuses could enter the 36 astral peaks. It was a symbol of status. The 14 peerless geniuses of the 4 godly palaces obviously had the right to do so. Looking at the 14 heavens favorites, many people's eyes lit up. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then one figure after another leaped onto the remaining mountains like flickering lights and passing shadows. More than 22 people leaped onto the remaining 22 mountains. Naturally, some of the mountains had more than one person. Scram! Someone shouted, "You're the one who should get lost." What qualifications do you have to occupy this mountain? Boom! Then a great battle broke out. It was very intense. Those who wanted to enter the mountains were extremely powerful geniuses. They were confident in themselves. Otherwise, they would not have dared to go up. Most of them were the strongest geniuses of the top 10 continents of the Divine Ruins continent. Boom! 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 The sky rumbled. The battle was extremely intense. Various lights flickered in the sky. Heavens! Are these the strongest geniuses of the Divine Ruins continent? This is too shocking. Their strength is comparable to a perfect spirit god, right? Even a perfect spirit god isn't this terrifying. Many people discussed among themselves in astonishment. Meanwhile, the eyes of Underworld Child, Lion Doe, and the others were filled with astonishment. These people were too strong. Seventh layer, spirit god realm. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. These young men in the battle were all at the 7th layer spirit god realm. Their strength was extremely shocking. In the end, the battle was still decided. Someone was knocked flying while spitting out blood. Then, a young man stood on each of the 36 astral peaks. However, the battle was obviously not over yet. Scram! This is not a place where you can stand. Young experts flew up from 4 different directions. They each chose a target and launched a fierce attack. On the Southern God Palace's side, 3 people from the White Feather continent had set foot on the Divine Ruins continent, 1 from the Zhanping continent, and 1 youth from another continent. This continent was called the Flaming Tide continent. This youth was wearing a long robe with a flame pattern. He was the number 1 genius of the Flaming Tide continent. At this moment, a short-haired youth from the Zhanping continent flew out and attacked the Flaming Tide continent's genius. Scram! The short-haired youth from the Zhanping continent shouted coldly. His iron fist was like a mountain as he punched the Flaming Tide continent's genius. The Flaming Tide continent's genius's gaze turned cold. Flames surged from his body as he engaged in a fierce battle with the short-haired youth. Both of them were at the 7th layer spirit god realm. The 2 of them exchanged dozens of moves. In the end, the short-haired youth from the Zhanping continent was stronger and sent the Flaming Tide continent's genius flying. The Zhanping continent is indeed worthy of being ranked 8th. This person is called Lu Qingzhou. He's the number 2 genius of the Zhanping continent. His strength is actually so shocking. The top 10 continents are indeed amazing. They have as many experts as the clouds. The other continents can't compare at all. The geniuses of the smaller continents around Lu Ming and the others were discussing. Their words were filled with awe and admiration. They were all geniuses who stood at the peak of their respective continents. However, compared to these geniuses, there was a huge gap. However, many of them clenched their fists. They were confident that their talent wasn't inferior to others. It was just that their resources weren't as good as those of the top continents. That was why their cultivation was lagging behind. As long as they were given time, they were confident that they could catch up. Lu Qingzhou stood at the top of a mountain and looked around. His gaze was especially cold when it landed on Lu Ming. You too, Scram. Unfortunately, Lu Qingzhou didn't even stand there for a minute before a genius from the Eastern Divine Palace rushed out and attacked Lu Qingzhou. The 2 of them fought fiercely. However, after just a dozen moves, Lu Qingzhou was beaten until he vomited blood and was sent flying far away. Damn it, Lu Qingzhou growled. He looked unwilling, but his eyes were filled with shock. The genius from the Eastern Divine Palace had defeated him in a dozen moves. He was too strong. The fierce battle continued. However, the 14 strongest geniuses of the 4 divine palaces, as well as the geniuses from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th continents, didn't dare to challenge them. That was because these people gave off a very dangerous feeling. The battle went on for more than 10 minutes before it stopped. Chapter 1230. 36 Big Dipper peaks were occupied by 36 sky prides. They stood high and proud as they looked down on the other geniuses. For a moment, no one went up to challenge them. Of course, it didn't mean that the 36 sky prides were the strongest among the 1,000 sky prides present. There might be some who didn't want to challenge them. For example, Long Chen. Currently, Long Chen's cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th level spirit god. With the terrifying power of his immemorial dragonesque elephant bloodline, he could definitely occupy one of the peaks. There was also Lu Ming. Now that his 9 dragons bloodline had reached the 9th level of the divine realm, his combat strength was even stronger. It wouldn't be a problem for him to occupy one of the peaks. Among the remaining geniuses, how could there not be any sky prides with terrifying strength? It was just that they didn't make a move due to various reasons. After all, the Celestial God sect hadn't started the selection process yet. There was no need for some to expose their strength. Ha ha ha! Looks like the Southern Divine Palace isn't going to make it. You only occupy 7 peaks. A loud laugh came from an emperor of the West Divine Palace. The black-robed, middle-aged man's face turned ugly. There were a total of 36 peaks, and the Southern Divine Palace only occupied 7. It was obvious that they were weaker. The Western Divine Palace and the Southern Divine Palace's strength had always been on par. The competition between them was naturally fierce. Moreover, the Celestial God sect was selecting disciples this time. Whoever succeeded in joining the Celestial God sect would naturally receive more rewards from the Celestial God sect. Humph, the sky prides of the Southern Divine Palace aren't that high profile. The black-robed, middle-aged man snorted coldly. Haha, so you're saying that the Southern Divine Palace is hiding many sky prides who can step onto the Big Dipper Peak. The sovereign from the Western Divine Palace sneered. The black-robed, middle-aged man's face was cold. He didn't say anything as he wasn't confident. He was just putting on a brave front. Buzz. At this moment, one of the altars in the sky suddenly vibrated slightly. Countless inscriptions flashed and radiance spread out. Many people were shocked as they looked at the altar with hopeful eyes. Legend had it that the 9 ancient altars were the spatial passageways that led to the major forces of the Yuan continent. A long time ago, the Divine Ruins mainland was connected to the 9 major forces of the Yuan continent. Therefore, the 9 altars were left. But now, the Godly Ruins mainland had long lost contact with the 9 major forces. The 9 ancient altars had not been activated for a long time. Some time ago, one of the forces, the Heavenly God sect, suddenly got in touch with the Divine Ruins continent and issued an order to select disciples. Were the experts of the Celestial God sect, one of the major forces of the Yuan continent, about to arrive? That was one of the major forces in Yuan continent. Most of the people were staring at the altar with burning gazes. Yuanlu was the core of the primordial realm. It was a place that all cultivators yearned for. It was a holy land for cultivation. Over there were powerhouses who truly stood at the peak. Legend had it that there were peerless, almighty beings who had survived since the ancient times. There were countless geniuses there. That place was prosperous to the extreme. Unfortunately, no one had been there. Even many rulers had not been there. Now he was finally going to meet the experts of the major forces in Yuanlu. Wang. The light grew brighter and brighter. In the end, a door of light appeared on the ancient altar. Then, everyone saw figures emerging from the door of light. There were a total of 6 figures. The leader was an elder with a head full of silver hair. Behind the elder were 2 middle-aged, burly men. The 3 of them stood there casually, but their bodies exuded an unparalleled pressure. That pressure was like a sacred mountain that weighed hundreds of millions of pounds. It pressed down on everyone's hearts, making it difficult for them to breathe. So powerful! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. The pressure that the 3 of them gave off was far greater than that of the black-robed, middle-aged man. In other words, The three of them had surpassed level 3 martial royal realm. Behind the three of them were three young men. There were 2 men and 1 woman. The men were handsome, and the woman was beautiful. The 3 young men and women scanned the crowd. Their eyes were filled with curiosity, arrogance, and disdain. It was as if they were high and mighty emperors facing a bunch of beggars. "Greetings, emissary of the heavenly god sect." The rulers of the 4 sacred palaces quickly bowed respectfully. "Greetings, emissary of the heavenly god sect." The others, including the emissary of the ancient city of the divine ruins, also bowed respectfully. "Are all the geniuses of the continent of the divine ruins here?" the silver-haired elder asked. His voice was melodious and resounded in everyone's ears. No matter how far away they were, they could hear him clearly. "Emissary, all the strongest geniuses of the continent of the divine ruins are here." A ruler of the northern sacred palace said respectfully, "Very well. From now on, the Heavenly God sect will choose a group of geniuses to join the Heavenly God sect. There is no limit to the number. It mainly depends on your performance. If you perform well, you will be able to join the Heavenly God sect. Therefore, you will have to go through a series of tests. There will be 2 rounds in this test. Now, we need to set up the venue for the first round of tests. It will take 7 days, so the first round of tests will take place in 7 days. Come back 7 days later." The silver-haired elder announced. "Yes, we will take our leave." The rulers of the 4 sacred palaces bowed and left with the geniuses. The 4 sacred palaces all had branches in the ancient city of the divine ruins. Soon, Lu Ming and the others arrived at a huge mansion. There were many palaces and buildings in the mansion. Lu Ming and the others each had a spacious room. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing entered the room together and entered the mountain river diagram. Xie Nianqing sat cross-legged under the enlightenment ancient tree and quietly comprehended. In the divine ruins, Xie Nianqing had obtained the inheritance of a peerless expert who cultivated the demonic Tao. He needed time to comprehend it carefully. The enlightenment ancient tree could help Xie Nianqing improve quickly. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on another mountain peak. With a wave of his hand, a pile of origin stones appeared in front of him. There were millions of them. Now, Lu Ming's various wills of heaven and earth had been greatly improved, far surpassing his current cultivation. It was time to use the origin stones to improve his cultivation. In this selection, there were many geniuses in the divine ruins. With Lu Ming's current cultivation of the 5th level spirit god, it was obviously not enough. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared and swallowed millions of origin stones in one gulp and began to refine them. The 9 dragons' bloodline had advanced to the 9th level of the divine realm, and the power of devouring and refining had increased to a terrifying level. The refining of origin stones had also reached an astonishing level. Millions of origin stones were constantly being refined and turned into true origin chi, which surged in Lu Ming's body like a tide. Rumble! True origin chi flowed and rumbled. Lu Ming's spirit god became more and more condensed and dazzling. Lu Ming's cultivation also became stronger. Soon, millions of origin stones were all refined. Lu Ming took out millions more and continued to devour and refine them. At his current level, Lu Ming needed even more origin stones. Just like this, Lu Ming had refined a shocking 20 million origin stones. At this moment, a fierce whistling sound came from Lu Ming's body. His aura suddenly soared. 6th level spirit god. Chapter 1231. However, Lu Ming did not stop at this point. Instead, he continued to devour and refine origin stones. His current intent realm cultivation was enough to support his cultivation to skyrocket. Piles of origin stones were constantly refined and turned into Lu Ming's true yuan. Early 6th level spirit god, mid 6th level spirit god, late 6th level spirit god, Lu Ming's cultivation was rising at a shocking speed. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. When the 7th day arrived, Lu Ming's aura had reached an unprecedented height. 7th level spirit god. Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 7th level spirit god in one go. So strong! Lu Ming circulated the true dragon art and felt the true yuan in his body that was 10 times stronger than before. He smiled. Compared to 7 days ago, his current combat strength was many times more powerful than before. The stronger his cultivation and true yuan were, the stronger the hell suppressing heaven skills power would be, and his battle strength would skyrocket. Whoosh! Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward, arriving in front of Xian Yinqing. At this moment, Xian Yinqing also stood up and smiled. In 7 days, Xian Yinqing's cultivation had actually risen by 2 levels, from the early 6th level spirit god to the late 6th level spirit god. The speed was also shockingly fast. Xian Yinqing had just obtained the inheritance of a supreme existence. This period of time was the time for her cultivation to explode. As she comprehended more of the inheritance, her cultivation would continue to rise. Time's up. Let's go out. Lu Ming smiled with confidence in his eyes. The two of them exited the mountain river diagram. As expected, the crowd had already begun to gather. In a courtyard, the prodigies of the Southern God Palace were gathered. The black-robed, middle-aged man was sitting at the front. The black-robed, middle-aged man had a solemn expression. This time, the prodigies of the other 3 forces are all shockingly strong. You must work hard. Once you're selected by the Celestial God Sect and become their disciples, not only will you be able to join the Celestial God Sect to cultivate, but the Southern God Palace will also reward you greatly. Therefore, you must do your best. Yes, everyone nodded. All right, come with me. The black-clothed, middle-aged man nodded and led the group into the sky. Soon, they arrived near the 36 Tiangang Mountains. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the sky, air-piercing sounds could be heard continuously. The geniuses of the other 3 factions had arrived as well. Whoosh! With a flash of light, the heavenly god Sect's silver-haired elder and the others appeared in the air above the 36 mountains. The silver-haired old man swept them with his gaze and said, "This time the first round will be carried out in a small dimension. There are no rules there, and you can utilize any method. Your mission is to stay in that dimension for 15 days, and you'll be able to enter the next round if you stay there for 15 days. As long as I stay for 15 days, I can enter the next round." Many people were surprised. This sounded very simple. If he stayed for 15 days, wouldn't he be able to enter the next round if he found a place to hide? It shouldn't be that simple, many people thought. Also, there are some opportunities in this small plane. I can tell you that these opportunities are very rare in the continent of God and can greatly increase your strength. The silver-haired old man's voice was full of temptation. Many people's eyes lit up. These opportunities were given by the Heavenly God Sect. How valuable would they be? Of course, if you want to obtain these opportunities, you'll need the key. And the key is with each of you. The silver-haired old man continued. You need the key? The key is with each of us. Many people were flabbergasted and puzzled. However, the silver-haired old man didn't want to explain further. An earth-shattering aura burst out from his body. The aura was so strong that even the black-clothed middle-aged man, who was a rank 3 Martial Royal Realm expert, was shocked. Whoosh! The silver-haired old man waved his hand and a huge, light door appeared in the air. You can enter from here, the silver-haired old man said. Let's go. Whoosh! 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 Immediately, some people rushed into the door of light and disappeared. The silver-haired old man had said that there were great opportunities inside. If they entered first, they would have a higher chance of obtaining great opportunities. Go, go, go! Young people rushed into the light door one by one. Shao Qing Be careful when you enter. Lu Ming held Xie Nianqing's hand. I will, you too. Xie Nianqing nodded. Following this, the two sprang into the air and entered the light door. Following this, the surroundings changed abruptly. Lu Ming discovered that he had appeared in a mountain range. There was no one around him. As expected, the place was random. He had been separated from Xie Nianqing. Lu Ming took out a sound-conducting jade talisman and sent a message to Xie Nianqing. Unfortunately, the message could not be sent out. At that instant, Lu Ming discovered that his spine was slightly warm, with streams of blood qi lingering in the air. These streams of blood qi gathered above Lu Ming's head and formed a blood-red key. Key, the silver-haired old man said that the key is with each of us. Is he referring to this key? Lu Ming pondered. Perhaps each of them had a key above their heads. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming chose a direction at random and flew into the air. That's? After flying for a while, Lu Ming saw a floating palace high in the sky. There was actually a floating palace here. Lu Ming was very curious, and he flew up. The door of the palace was tightly shut. In front of the door there were two young men. Sure enough, it's a blood-red key. Lu Ming saw a key floating above the two young men's heads. Open! One of the young men heavily punched the door of the palace. However, the door of the palace did not move at all. Instead, it was the young man himself who was pushed back by the rebounding force. It can't be broken. I've tried before, the other young man said. At that moment, the two of them also noticed Lu Ming and looked over at Lu Ming. Lu Ming stopped at a spot not far away and sized up the hall carefully. He did not know what material the palace was made of. The young man who attacked just now was very strong and had reached the 6th level of the spirit god realm, but he still could not break it open. There are 9 small holes over there. Could they be keyholes? Lu Ming suddenly looked at a stone tablet beside the door. There were 9 small holes on the tablet, arranged in a strange pattern. The other two young men's eyes lit up. 9 small holes. Could it be that 9 people and 9 keys are needed to open it? One of the young men in black robes guessed. Swoosh! Suddenly, the 6th level spirit god realm young man pounced toward the young man in black robes like lightning. A saber light condensed in his hand and slashed toward the young man in black robes. What are you doing? Chapter 1232. However, the black-robed youth's cultivation was only at the peak of the 4th level of the spirit god realm, and he was much weaker than his opponent. Coupled with the fact that he was in a hurry, he couldn't block the attack at all. Pucci! A bloody light burst forth as the black-robed youth's head flew high into the sky. Even his spirit god was minced into pieces. If I can seize your key, then I don't need 9 people. The youth at the 6th level of the spirit god realm revealed an icy cold smile. Subsequently, a strange scene appeared. The bloodline energy in the spine of the black-robed youth started to converge towards the blood-colored key. The blood-colored key shone resplendently as it suffused the air. Subsequently, it flew towards the youth at the 6th level of the spirit god realm and appeared above his head. 2 blood-colored keys appeared above the head of the 6th level spirit god realm youth. It was only a guess. I didn't expect that I would really be able to seize it. So long as I gather 9 keys, I'll be able to open this hall by myself and obtain the fortune within. The young man at the 6th level spirit god realm laughed and looked at Lu Ming coldly. You actually didn't flee just now. Now become my key as well. The youth revealed a ferocious expression as his killing intent was icy cold. It's actually a blood-colored key condensed from bloodline energy. How miraculous! Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the youth as he muttered with a curious expression. Die, kid! Killing intent bloomed in the youth's eyes when he saw Lu Ming directly ignoring him. He took a step forward and charged towards Lu Ming like a bolt of lightning. A blade light slashed towards Lu Ming's neck. Just now, he'd killed the black-robed youth with a blade strike like this. Now, the might of this blade strike was even stronger than the previous one. It seemed like the blade light was about to slash Lu Ming's neck. 3 keys. A trace of a cold smile appeared on the youth's face, as if he'd already obtained 3 keys. But in the next moment, his eyes suddenly opened wide, and there was an extremely terrified expression in his eyes. A spear light had appeared out of nowhere and pierced through his dantian. It went straight through his body and minced his spirit god into pieces. Fast, the spear light's speed was too fast, and its might was terrifying. The true essence that covered his entire body was pierced through by the spear light like paper. No. He opened his mouth with great difficulty, wanting to beg for mercy. The spear light shook, and the 6th-level spirit god youth's body was torn into pieces. As soon as the youth died, his bloodline power gathered towards the blood-colored key. Finally, the 2 blood-colored keys floated above Lu Ming's head, including his own. There were 3 blood-colored keys floating above Lu Ming's head. 3 keys. It seems that killing one person will allow me to obtain the other person's key. As long as I gather all 9 keys, I will be able to open the palace and obtain the fortune inside. I just don't know if there are many of these palaces. If there are many, then it will be a bloody massacre. Lu Ming sighed. In order to obtain the opportunities left behind by the heavenly god sect in the palace, those geniuses would definitely kill others to obtain the keys. Little Qing. Lu Ming was a little worried about Xian Yanqing. First, we have to find Xiao Qing. Lu Ming made up his mind and was about to leave. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 streaks of light tore through the void and appeared not far away. It's them. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Lu Ming knew both of them. Both of them were geniuses who had fought to a draw with the mainland. One of them was one of the people whom Lu Ming had defeated in the ruins of God. His cultivation was at the 6th level of the spirit god realm. The other one had short hair and looked capable. He was the 2nd strongest genius of the continent, Lu Qingzhou. There were 2 blood-colored keys above Lu Qingzhou's head, and the other one had one. They first glanced at the palace before looking at Lu Ming. It's him. It's that kid from the divine wilderness continent. 3 blood-colored keys. Their eyes lit up when they saw Lu Ming, and then they were overjoyed. Lu Qingzhou's eyes were blazing as he laughed. It's actually this kid who dares to touch the people of the continent. Haha, give me your keys. Lu Qingzhou laughed as his figure flashed and charged towards Lu Ming, as if he was afraid that Lu Ming would escape. Whoosh! A scimitar appeared in Lu Qingzhou's hand and slashed towards Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming moved his feet and his figure swayed slightly, avoiding Lu Qingzhou's saber gleam. Kid, don't even think about running. Lu Qingzhou shouted coldly. Run. I'm afraid that you'll run away. Lu Ming sneered. Whoosh! He took a step forward and instantly approached the other young man from the continent. You. Get lost. The young man shouted and performed bloodline fusion to launch his strongest attack, trying to stop Lu Ming. Although he wasn't a match for Lu Ming in the ruins of God, he could still exchange a few blows with him. Now, he was confident that he could stop Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming punched the young man's bloodline. Immediately, the young man's bloodline exploded, and even his physical body was turned into dust. The young man's bloodline power gathered on the blood-colored key above his head and appeared above Lu Ming's head. There were a total of 4 blood-colored keys above Lu Ming's head. Lu Qingzhou's eyes narrowed slightly. Lu Ming's punch had shocked him. However, he was still confident that he could defeat Lu Ming. It's not bad for a mere divine wilderness continent to have a genius like you. However, you still have to die. Kill. Lu Qingzhou shouted coldly as his saber light tore through the void, creating a hideous crack in space. Whoosh! The sharp saber light went straight for Lu Ming's throat. You want to kill me after fighting the second strongest genius of the continent? Let's see what you're capable of. Lu Ming punched out, and 8 dragon forces erupted from his body as he activated the hell-suppressing heaven skill. The void seemed to be groaning under Lu Ming's fist. The space within a radius of 1,000 miles was vibrating violently, creating many ripples. Clang! The fist collided with Lu Qingzhou's saberlight. Lu Qingzhou's expression changed drastically as his body flew out like a cannonball, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. 7th level spirit god. But how can a 7th level spirit god be so strong? Lu Qingzhou roared in his heart. He could sense that Lu Ming's cultivation was at the early 7th level spirit god realm. The fact that there was a 7th level spirit god in the divine wilderness continent had already shocked him. However, his cultivation was at the late 7th level spirit god realm, which was even higher than Lu Ming's. It was shocking that he was heavily injured by a single punch. He was afraid in his heart. This is a monster. Let's go. Whoosh! Lu Qingzhou turned around and fled frantically. It's too late to leave now. Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps and crossed the void in a few steps, chasing after Lu Qingzhou. He approached Lu Ming in a few breaths' time. I'll fight you to the death. Lu Qingzhou roared as he executed the bloodline fusion and turned into a saber. The saber emitted a dazzling light and slashed at Lu Ming. Clang! Lu Ming still punched out. The saber shook violently and flew far away. Clang! Then Lu Ming punched out again. Chapter 1233. Currently, 3 of Lu Ming's 5 intents had reached the peak of the 4th level, and 2 of them had reached the peak of the 4th level. Just the combination of the 5 intents was already very powerful, not to mention the other intents. Now, Lu Ming could easily crush ordinary geniuses of the same level, even if they had awakened a 9th level divine bloodline. The machete exploded, and Lu Qingzhou's body flew far away. His body was almost smashed, and he was covered in blood. Blood was also spurting out of his mouth. How could this be? How could he be so strong? He roared in his heart, extremely terrified. Being ranked 8th among the 42 continents of the Divine Ruins continent group meant that there were many geniuses there. For him to be ranked 2nd among so many geniuses, he was definitely second only to one person and above millions of others. He was an invincible existence at the same level. But now he was seriously injured by Lu Ming in a few punches. It was really unbelievable. All he wanted now was to escape as far as he could. But obviously, Lu Ming would not give him the chance. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and punched out. A violent force crushed towards Lu Qingzhou. No. Lu Qingzhou roared hysterically. But in the next moment, his body suddenly exploded, and his body and soul were destroyed. Bloodline power gathered towards the keys, and in the next moment, 6 blood-colored keys appeared above Lu Ming's head. Buzz! At this moment, the 6 blood-colored keys vibrated as if they were resonating with each other, emitting a strong blood-colored light. Then, the light of the 6 keys gathered, forming an extremely strong blood-colored light pillar that shot up into the sky and pierced through the clouds. At this moment, even Lu Ming could see this blood-colored light pillar from a very far distance away. What's that? What a strong blood-colored light! Could a rare treasure have appeared? Let's go and take a look. Let's go. One by one, figures pounced in the direction of Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked at the light pillar above his head and was stunned. Could it be that gathering 6 keys would cause such a phenomenon? Then it would be too difficult to gather 9 keys. It would be strange if such a phenomenon did not attract other experts. There was nowhere to hide. It was too difficult to obtain the opportunity mentioned by the heavenly god sect. If that's the case, I'll kill whoever dares to touch me. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. He decided not to leave. He stood quietly in the void and waited. Not long after, whoosh, whoosh, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out continuously. 7 or 8 youths in feathered robes appeared first. It's him. It's Lu Ming. One of them was actually Mu Ju. As soon as he saw Lu Ming, he shouted loudly, revealing a cold light. 6 keys. A mere piece of trash from the divine wilderness continent actually managed to gather 6 keys. It looks like his luck is pretty good. The moment he arrived, he encountered a pile of trash. A young man with black wings sneered. How strong could a person from the divine wilderness continent be to be able to gather 6 keys? He must have encountered a continent that was even more trashy, allowing Lu Ming to obtain the 6 keys. If I kill him, I'll be able to gather the 9 keys. A young man in silver-white, feathered robes licked his lips and sneered. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming. Let's see how you're going to die this time. You were lucky last time. Mu Ju laughed. There were 7 heavens prides from the white feather continent here. One of them, the young man in white feathered robes, was an existence that had stepped onto the 36th Tiangang Peak. He was superior to the other heavens prides. With the heavens prides from the white feather continent here, he was sure that Lu Ming was going to die. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air continued to ring out. A group of youths appeared behind Lu Ming. The one in the lead had a face full of green whiskers and an extremely powerful aura. There are 6 keys. Haha, these 6 keys are mine. The young man with the green whiskers saw the 6 blood-red keys above Lu Ming's head, and his eyes emitted a blazing light. There were 4 keys above his head. Adding Lu Ming's, he had 9 keys. Man Feng, it's you. On the white feather continent, the young man in silver feathered robes had a slight change in expression. The young man with the green whiskers came from the yellow verdant continent and was ranked 5th in the Divine Ruins continent group. The young man with the green whiskers was also an expert that had stepped onto the 36th Tiangang Peak. Haha, Silverwing, what a coincidence. The young man with the green whiskers grinned. Man Feng, I found this brat first. You should leave as soon as possible. Silverwing said coldly. Ha ha ha, what a joke. This is the heavenly god sex assessment. Who told you about first come first serve? It depends on ability. The keys will belong to whoever kills him first. Man Feng grinned. He looked simple and honest, but the cruel killing intent in his eyes sent chills down one's spine. At this moment, there were sounds of something breaking through the air from other directions. More young heavens prides had arrived, but when they saw Man Feng and Silverwing, their expressions changed drastically. Not good. It's the heavens prides that stepped onto the 36th Tiangang Peak. Retreat. Let's go. The faces of those who came later changed drastically as they retreated. Lu Ming is dead meat. One of them was the divine wilderness continent's heaven's pride, lion capital. At this moment, his eyes flashed with a gloating light as he fled far away. Kill. At this moment, Silverwing suddenly launched an attack. A pair of silver wings appeared behind his back. Like a silver lightning bolt, he pounced towards Lu Ming. His sharp claws could tear through everything as he clawed at Lu Ming. Silverwing, you're despicable. How dare you launch a sneak attack? This brat is mine. Man Feng roared. The roar of a beast could be heard from his body. He took a few steps in the air and charged towards Lu Ming. The two of them had completely treated Lu Ming as their prey, their key provider. In their eyes, Lu Ming's fate was already sealed. He was dead for sure. They had to be wary of him. He's mine. Silverwing's eyes were cold. He had killed Lu Ming in one move. In this way, if he killed Lu Ming first, Lu Ming's blood-colored key would naturally belong to him. Hee, you're just ignoring me. Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. He shifted his feet slightly and dodged Silverwing's claw. Brat, you still dare to dodge? Die! Silverwing roared. His claws swiftly clawed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming actually dared to dodge. He was furious. He had seized the opportunity with great difficulty. If Lu Ming dodged, wouldn't he lose it? In his heart, he did not consider that if he wanted to kill Lu Ming, wouldn't it be normal for Lu Ming to dodge? He only thought that if Lu Ming dodged, wouldn't he destroy his opportunity? Then I won't dodge. Lu Ming said indifferently. Then boom. An extremely shocking aura erupted from his body. The aura of a 7th-level spirit god was completely released. The 5-colored concept revolved around him as he punched out. This punch directly hit one of Silverwing's claws. Crack! Chapter 1234. What? Man Fong was originally rushing towards Lu Ming, worried that Silverwing would take the initiative. But suddenly he saw that Silverwing's claw was injured by Lu Ming's punch, and he kept retreating. He was a little stunned. In his imagination, this was not the case at all. He was still worried that Lu Ming would be killed by the Silverwing in 2 moves. In his heart, he was silently praying that Lu Ming could dodge and block a few moves. Never did he expect that it would actually be such a scene. Kill! Lu Ming shouted coldly. His killing intent was extremely strong. Shrouded by Lu Ming's killing intent, Silverwing felt cold all over and quickly retreated. You don't want to kill me. Why are you retreating now? Lu Ming said coldly. He took a step forward, caught up with Silverwing in an instant, and struck out with his palm. The power of this palm made Silverwing's hair stand on end, and his muscles trembled in fear. Caw! A sharp cry was heard. Silverwing turned into a big silver bird, exuding a silver light and extraordinary power. It turned out that Silverwing was not a human, but a demon. This was his original form. In his original form, Silverwing folded his wings and blocked in front of him, trying to block Lu Ming's attack. Bam! Lu Ming's palm slashed down, crushing the Silverwing's protective demonic power. The palm slashed on the Silverwing's wings, emitting a loud clang. The Silverwing directly exploded and silver feathers flew all over the sky. Silverwing screamed and retreated like crazy, like a silver lightning bolt. Bam! 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 Lu Ming stepped forward, using the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps. The power of each step was stronger than the previous one, and the power of each step fell on Silverwing's body. With each step, Silverwing's body shook violently. When Lu Ming took the 8th step, Silverwing let out a shrill scream, and then his body was torn apart. Silver blood scattered in the air. How can he be so strong? On the other side, Man Fong was flabbergasted. Then he felt a chill in his heart. It was too shocking. Silverwing's battle prowess was about the same as his, but in Lu Ming's hands he was killed in just a few moves. This was too terrifying. Run! Run! This was the first thing that flashed through his mind. Then he turned around and ran. Didn't you want my key? Why are you running away now? A cold voice rang in Man Feng's ears. Man Fong roared in fright. He exploded with all his strength and punched towards Lu Ming. But what welcomed him was Lu Ming's punch. Bang! When the 2 fists collided, Man Fong felt a sharp pain in his arm. The bones in his arm had been broken by Lu Ming's punch. Boom! 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 Following that was Lu Ming's storm-like attacks. The shadows of his fists were like mountains enveloping brute wind. No! Man Fong roared, but in the next moment he was drowned out. Then, with a scream, Man Fong was killed. 2 top powerhouses who could step foot on the 36th Tiangang Peak were killed by Lu Ming in an instant. How could this be? Not too far away, The geniuses of the white feather continent and the yellow verdant continent looked at this scene in shock. They were completely dumbfounded. How is this possible? How is this possible? Especially Mu Ju. He kept muttering, completely unable to accept everything in front of him. Lu Ming's battle prowess was very strong. He had long known that Lu Ming had killed so many experts in the ruins of God. Even the experts at the great perfection spirit god realm were no match for Lu Ming. However, the geniuses who could set foot on the 36 Tiangang peaks had the battle prowess of a great perfection spirit god. They could even kill a great perfection spirit god. Their battle prowess was incomparably close to that of a supreme being. They were definitely above Lu Ming at that time. He originally thought that with Silver Wing's battle prowess, it was enough to kill Lu Ming. But now, Lu Ming effortlessly slashed Silver Wings and Brute Wind consecutively. He did not even unleash his bloodline. This kind of combat power was simply too shocking and terrifying. Mu Ju, it's your turn now. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at Mu Ju with eyes full of killing intent. No, Mu Ju was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He screamed and ran back frantically. The others also dispersed in an uproar. Whoosh! Lu Ming's figure was like lightning rushing towards Mu Ju. No, don't kill me. Help! Help! Mu Ju screamed crazily, completely without the courage to resist. Didn't you want to kill me? Lu Ming said. No, please let me go. Mu Ju was about to cry. Why didn't you consider letting me go when we were in the ruins of God? Lu Ming sneered. His killing intent was incomparably cold. He must kill Mu Ju. Lu Ming, I'm the young lord of the Mu family. My father is the patriarch of the Mu family and emperor. If you want to kill me, no one can save you. You're dead meat. Mu Ju screamed. Seeing that begging for mercy didn't work, he began to threaten. That's my business. You don't have to worry about it. Lu Ming sneered, unmoved. No. Mu Ju was trembling in fear. He only knew how to scream. Kill. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with Mu Ju. With a palm strike, Mu Ju didn't have the slightest strength to resist and was killed by Lu Ming. Buzz! At this moment, the light above Lu Ming's head was even more dazzling. The blood-red light pillar was even more brilliant, because there were a total of 9 blood-red keys floating above Lu Ming's head. Why are there only 9? Lu Ming was surprised. Just now, he had killed Silverwing and Manfoam. Logically speaking, he should have obtained more than 10 keys from them. But now, there were only 9 keys above Lu Ming's head. It seems that I can only get 9 keys at a time. Any more, and it would be a waste. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Let's open that palace first. Lu Ming's eyes looked at the palace. Suddenly, Lu Ming's hair stood on end. He felt a sense of danger approaching rapidly. Whoosh! In the sky, a sword light fell from the sky, aiming at Lu Ming. Before the sword light arrived, a terrifying chill descended, as if it was going to freeze Lu Ming completely. Boom! Without any hesitation, Lu Ming threw a punch at the sword light. With a bang, the sword light exploded and turned into ice shards that scattered in all directions. It was an ice sword. As for Lu Ming, he took 3 consecutive steps back. So cold, such a terrifying chill. Lu Ming felt his fist go numb. He looked down and saw a layer of ice crystals on his fist. His fist was covered with 5 types of essence of heaven and earth and was covered by his vital essence. Under his skin, there was also a layer of dragon power due to the outburst of dragon power. However, the cold air actually penetrated multiple layers of defense and was about to freeze Lu Ming's fist. Lu Ming had never seen such a chill before. Lu Ming looked up at the sky and saw a young man in white walking towards Lu Ming step by step. There were 5 keys floating above this person's head. It's him. Lu Ming's eyes moved. This person was one of the 4 strongest geniuses of the North Divine Palace. He was as famous as Ji Hongqin and Wang Zhen. Ice Dragon. Chapter 1235. Not bad. You were able to take one of my attacks and only took 3 steps back. You're pretty strong. Ice Dragon stepped down step by step and spoke calmly, looking high and mighty. He had seen how Lu Ming killed Silver Wing and Man Fong, but he was still full of confidence. Stepping onto the 36th astral peak didn't mean anything. He didn't care about Silver Wing and Man Fong at all. You want my key too? Lu Ming looked at Ice Dragon and asked, Haha, I can't miss this chance. You can only blame yourself for being too unlucky. Ice Dragon said coldly, as if he was certain that Lu Ming would be defeated. You're that confident? Silver Wing and Man Fong were also that confident, but they ended up giving me your key. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Don't compare me with those 2 trash. Otherwise, you'll realize that you've made a huge mistake. Ice Dragon smiled confidently. He walked toward Lu Ming as he spoke, and a terrifying chill spread out from his body. Lu Ming's true yuan boiled and burned fiercely. It seems like you want to fight to the death. You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Ice Dragon's voice turned cold, and countless ice crystals appeared around him. That was the condensation of the water vapor in the air, which had been frozen by the cold air. Even the wind around the Ice Dragon had stopped as if it had been frozen. Whoosh! Ice Dragon pointed at Lu Ming, and a terrifying chill shot toward Lu Ming. The chill seemed to be able to freeze everything in its path. Boom! Lu Ming's true yuan roared in his body, and the 5 intents of heaven and earth were circulated to the extreme. A pair of 5-colored gloves formed on his fists, and he punched out at the attack. Bang! An intense explosion rang out, and a white, cold chi ripple spread out in all directions. At this moment, with them as the center, the sky for thousands of miles around them turned white, and countless ice crystals appeared. Lu Ming's body swayed, and he took 2 steps back. So cold! This time, not only Lu Ming's fists, but even his body was covered in a layer of white ice crystals. Ice Dragon raised his eyebrows. He was surprised that Lu Ming had managed to block his attack. He was confident that he could kill geniuses like Silver Wing and Man Fong with this single finger. Icebound 10,000 miles. The cold aura around Ice Dragon's body became even colder. This time it changed from a finger to a palm. With a palm strike, cold aura filled the sky and enveloped Lu Ming. At this moment, space seemed to have been frozen. Lu Ming felt as if his body had sunk into a swamp, unable to move. Die. It's your honor to die from this move of mine. Ice Dragon's cold voice sounded. Really? Then let's try the 9th dragon force. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up into a sneer as a dragon's roar resounded from within his body. The 9th dragon's force erupted. At this moment, Lu Ming's body was suffused with a layer of purple sparkling light. Even his muscles were slightly wriggling. This power! Lu Ming seemed to have transformed into 9 dragons. His dragon power was boiling, and he was filled with endless power. Boom! With a punch, with Lu Ming as the center, the space within a 10-mile radius was annihilated and turned into nothingness. The feeling of sinking into a swamp also disappeared without a trace. Boom! Then another punch was thrown towards Ice Dragon, colliding with his palm. This power, when the fist and palm collided, Ice Dragon's face changed drastically. His body trembled as 9 layers of ice crystals appeared in front of him. At the same time, he quickly retreated. Boom, boom! The 9 layers of ice crystals turned into ashes under Lu Ming's terrifying power. Chi! The ice crystals contained endless cold aura. They wanted to freeze Lu Ming, but they were all repelled by Lu Ming's power. This cold aura seems to be the ice concept. But why is it so terrifying? The temperature is so low. Lu Ming was a little surprised. He had come into contact with the concept of ice many times. Although its power was great, it was still worlds apart from the ice dragon. Ice dragon's ice concept was extremely powerful. Lu Ming had never seen it before. Lu Ming was surprised, but Ice Dragon's heart was in turmoil. Lu Ming could actually force him back, which was beyond his expectations. Looks like you were hiding your strength before. Your strength is indeed shocking, but it's still too early to fight with me. Ice Dragon's voice became colder and colder. The aura on his body also became stronger and colder. 8th level Spirit God Realm was Ice Dragon's cultivation. At such a young age, his cultivation had already reached the 8th level Spirit God Realm. Coupled with the terrifying ice concept, it was easy for Ice Dragon to kill a perfected Spirit God. Concept martial technique, absolute 0. Hoo-hoo! At this moment, Ice Dragon performed bloodline fusion and turned into an ice sword. The sword light was shocking. The moment this sword light appeared, everything in the world seemed to stop moving. It was as if everything in the world had stopped moving. There was only that sword light in the world. The ice sword slashed towards Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes also became serious. Ice Dragon's cultivation was originally 1 level higher than his. Coupled with the terrifying ice concept, his battle strength was extremely shocking. Ice Dragon did have the right to be arrogant. People like Silverwing and Manfong weren't even worthy of carrying Ice Dragon's shoes. They were too far apart and could be killed with a casual move. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming also performed bloodline fusion and turned into 9 dragons. Kill! The 9 dragons stepped into the air and charged towards Ice Dragon. The 2 of them started a great battle. Boom, boom, boom. This part of the world exploded. Endless energy mixed with terrifying coldness wreaked havoc in the world. In the distance, some people saw Lu Ming's blood-colored light pillar and wanted to rush over to check the situation. But thousands of miles away, they all widened their eyes in horror and then turned around to leave. Heavens, how can he be so strong? Is he still in the same generation as us? Too terrifying. With such strength, he can almost fight with a sovereign, right? Run, run quickly. Those Sky Pride scattered in all directions in fear, not daring to get too close for fear of being sucked in and dying an unnatural death. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Ice Dragon had exchanged dozens of moves. Dragon roars shook the sky. Lu Ming became more and more courageous as he fought. Every inch of the 9 dragons' body was a weapon of war. He used the true dragon battle technique, 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, and the suppressing hell-heaven skill, one after another. The power of the 9 dragons seemed to be able to destroy everything. The power of the suppressing hell-heaven skill seemed to be able to suppress everything. Although the Ice Dragon's frost concept was extremely terrifying, Lu Ming had comprehended 5 types of heaven and earth concepts after all. If he gathered them together, he would be able to contend with it. Rip! With a swipe of his dragon claw, he broke through Ice Dragon's layer of ice battle armor and left a deep mark on it. Bang! The divine dragon swung its tail, and the suppressing hell-heaven skill exploded, sending Ice Dragon flying. Who is this person? Which continent is he from? He actually has such shocking battle strength. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.